In the year 1034 of the Star Era, a major leak occurred at an oil depot in Country N. Due to tsunamis, earthquakes, and endless sudden natural disasters that occurred, a shift in the Earth's crust occurred as a result of which all continents became one. Immediately after these events, the Red Daughter, who went on for a whole year without ceasing, turned most people into cannibal monsters who were called predators. This historical event became known as the Red Rain disaster. During this very catastrophe, those people who remained in the minority and among those who did not turn into cannibals were suddenly endowed with abilities, superhuman strength, the ability to heal, the ability to strengthen the body, control of the elements, as well as special abilities. These are the 5 types of supernatural powers of which the owners became call users. Users began to protect the world from the transformed creatures, and it took 10 whole years, and as a result they managed to found as many as 7 large cities that serve as a shield for the surviving people. And the remaining uninhabited regions began to be called wastelands. In one of these, a group of people exterminated predators. The escort of this detachment counted them all and said that today they had killed as many as 7 predators, so now they need to be burned. The guy who possessed fire raised his hand and said that it was still difficult for him to imagine that these monsters had once been people. However, his friend said that he did not understand how one could compare a bunch of cannibals who had gone crazy with users like them. However, after that he smiled and said that this time this is what they should say with him. "Thank you for being able to find excellent goods." He eagerly looked at the girls they dragged into the cage. When they finally finished burning the corpses, the leader of this detachment opened the car door and ordered everyone to get into the car together. They left, looking at the red rain outside the window, the same red as the one that was 12 years ago. Having reached the destination, the captain asked not to lose vigilance and be attentive. After that, they got out of the car and reported to the commander, saying that the batch was ready. I thought that it was somehow strange because these groups of predators arrived in a short period of time, only 2 hours. And besides, their boss was still not visible here. One of the guys started poking the corpse of the predator with a stick and saying that these freaks have already killed so many people, but now they are lying here like low-grade garbage that doesn't even have crystal hearts. And even if they are caught alive, nobody will give them a penny. He, a friend who stood behind and said that he didn't understand why if they had a person who had the ability they should do all the dirty work instead of him. The captain asked them to stop saying these nonsense and added that the batch of captives was intended for the Lord. Therefore, if something happens to them, then they will be screwed. The assistant commander asked his chief to be simpler, because these guys are just going crazy and these are just stupid words. And they guarded this batch of goods perfectly, so there is nothing to worry about. Looking into the cage, the commander noticed that some of the girls were lying unconscious. He asked in surprise what happened to them. To which they explained to him that these were ordinary girls and they were afraid of predators, so they fainted. After that, he came close to one of the girls, saying that he couldn't take his eyes off them. After all, they looked like sweet dolls and he had to kill a lot of monsters to get such a treasure. And if the commander hadn't said that he wanted this baby, he would have had her here and capitalized it. However, while he was saying this, a drop of some liquid fell on his hand. Looking up to determine the source of this liquid, he froze in surprise. After all, right above him was a huge monster with its mouth open. Everyone immediately started running away and saying that this was a rank 4 monster, so they couldn't handle it. Someone tried to attack him. However, he immediately said that the abilities of the 3rd rank are useless against him, and they can only buy time. Monsters of the 4th rank are called mutants, and they have a certain intelligence and recovery ability, and due to various mutations of parts of their body, there are many varieties and they cannot be defined under a general type. The whole squad ran, but one of the guys was in front. Turning around, he used his ability to erect a stone wall. The captain looked at this in surprise and asked, "What the hell is his deputy doing?" The man immediately apologized to his commander and said that when she goes to the boss, he will definitely return to save his squad, while the captain called him a traitor. The deputy opened the doors with the thought that the commander was a user of the 3rd rank, and there were 2 more scum next to him, and they must hold out for several minutes, and during this time he would be able to escape from this factory and survive. However, as soon as he opened the door, monster-like faces appeared in front of him. The monster began to laugh and say that he adores unscrupulous people. After that, he and his little monsters attacked the deputy, and they all tore off his head amidst loud laughter. After this, his body was wrapped in a cocoon. The monster outside, meanwhile, had already destroyed the rest of the squad, after which he laughed and said that betrayal, fear, despair, and regret are the most delicious emotions. After these words, the monster disappeared, and in his place a certain Ji Yuchuan appeared, who snapped his fingers and said that the show was over. He slowly walked through the dead people and said that it was just an amazing scene. After that, he approached the only surviving member of the squad and asked him what it was like to watch his comrades die one after another right before his eyes. The guy looked in horror at the man unknown to him and said that he would never in his life tell about the Lord's location. Ji Yuchuan walked up to him with a smile and said that he hoped that this guy was showing something more impressive that could meet the standards of their gang. After that, Ji Yuchuan pulled on his gloves and took out a scalpel, saying that it doesn't matter to him anyway. After all, if he doesn't want to talk, then Ji Yuchuan will simply open his skull and look at all these memories himself. After that, Ji Yuchuan began to slowly pull his scalpel towards the face of this guy, who did not understand what this psycho was doing. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, made several precise cuts on his forehead, saying that there was some kind of lump here while the guy screamed in pain. A few more minutes passed, and his nerves no longer held him back. He begged to be killed. However, Ji Yuchuan asked him to shut up and stop fooling around with too much useless garbage in his stupid head, which is why the search will take some time. However, after a few more seconds of torture, Ji Yuchuan said with a smile that he had finally found what he needed. He swung his scalpel and used his powers to extract information from the man's memory at the same time as killing him. Memories of Country N and a certain oil base immediately appeared in his head. Slowly leaving, the man with a calm expression on his face said that this gave him a pleasant feeling of nostalgia. Returning home, Ji Yuchuan began to use strange objects to prepare food for himself. He looked at the cooking process with crazy eyes and reassured himself with the words that he only had to be patient a little longer, and he would be able to fully enjoy his food. He finally finished cooking and was glad that he had an excellent soup and a soft-boiled egg. Having set his table, he laughed with his arms outstretched looking at his perfect dish. After eating a small piece, the man thought that he needed to freeze some more of these tomatoes, because such tasty tomatoes would be difficult to get again. After that, the man looked at the photo in front of him and thought that his teacher taught him this recipe. In front of him was a photo from an orphanage called An Angel from the year 1032 of the Star Era. One day, a real massacre began in this place, and when it was all over, a teacher came inside and said that among a whole group of children only one G managed to survive, because it was expected that he was the most talented among them. After that, the teacher approached the little boy and handed him a toy, saying that the child was very brave and he should go with his new teacher. The boy took the bears in his arms and began to talk about how he had just killed all the other children. After thinking a little, he asked if it was a mistake, to which the teacher replied that Ji Yuchuan could not be wrong because he did what was right. After that, the boy looked at the teacher with happy eyes and asked if he would be taken away from here now. The teacher smiled warmly and said, "Of course, now they can finally leave, and the boy will become his most excellent creation." From that day on, endless torture and augmentation of our hero's body began. Every day was filled with pain and suffering. His body was injected with a variety of drugs and subjected to a variety of damage. Remembering all this, Ji Yuchuan calmly ate his food. However, the picture before his eyes became brighter and brighter. Finally, he could not stand it and blew himself up from his place, throwing a scalpel at the wall. After that, he wiped his mouth with his sleeve and said that after so many years he would finally be able to meet again. With my dear teacher, Yanalan City is the largest gathering place for ordinary people created by the Glory Federation. This place provides jobs and livelihoods, education for children, and medical care. Xiaoji lived here and gathered his things, opened the door to go to work, but met a girl on the threshold, who thanked him for giving her mother the medicine last week, after which she handed him lunch. Xiaoji patted her on the head, thanking her for this. However, he added that he had already had breakfast, so the girl should eat it herself, to which the little girl said that she prepared it herself and she knows that the medicine for her mother was very expensive, so she will work hard to earn enough money and return it. After saying this, Xiaoji slowly took the rice and took a bite. After a couple of seconds, he smiled and said that the taste was simply excellent. He ate a couple more pieces and thanked her for such a wonderful breakfast and said that he had to go to work. This made the girl happy, and she happily wished him a good day at work. After that, Xiaoji slowly walked to his work, but someone was watching him and radioed that nothing had happened to the target, and Xiaoji is now heading to the bus stop. And the surveillance of him continues. A few minutes later, the bus arrived, and Xiaoji went inside. The man who was standing nearby immediately told his accomplice that the object had entered the bus. After that, he also entered the bus to follow up further and was surprised to find that Xiaoji was missing. He used his walkie-talkie and stated that they had missed the target, asking what next steps. The commander sighed heavily and said that there was no need to do anything else, because there was no need to continue playing hide-and-seek with him. After that, he disconnected from the radio. Meanwhile, Xiaoji headed to the Ability Control Center created by the Santenberg Alliance, which is run by ordinary people who document all known information about users from the northern border city and nearby. At the entrance, Xiaoji used his keycard after authentication. After that, he walked inside and looked at the secretary with a smile and said that he had these papers that needed to be submitted to the archive, to which the secretary replied that Xiaoji was a little late today. Xiaoji said with a smile that he was very sorry because today he mixed up the buses and got on the wrong one. But inside, he thought that it was all because he came across a flock of annoying flies, meaning spies. One of the girls in the office asked Xiaojia why the boss is making fun of him, because active documents are not the concern of emigrants, to which Xiaojia replied that he has already taken up this task. Yes, and lately he has not had much work. The secretary picked up the archival documents, saying that fortunately Xiaoji is not involved in any investigation because she heard that recently as many as 5 users died in the city. And this happened in a steam factory right outside their city, and they died a terrible death. The second girl asked they were leaving for their city. Some rapist had entered their city, to which the secretary said that she didn't know anything and the management was still finding out all the circumstances of the case. So Xiaoji should be careful for those the city is filled with ordinary people without abilities, and if people like them encounter, something like that won't survive for them. Xiaoji briefly nodded his head and agreed with these words. For those who have not yet understood, this man is Ji Yuchuan, who in ordinary life disguises himself as an ordinary office clerk. And right now, one of the workers asked our hero to go to the director. Ji Yuchuan. Undercover waved his hand and said that he had to go and not chat next time, to which the second office worker said that it was very urgent and they should hurry. When they walked inside, Xiaoji asked the director why she wanted to see him. The director looked at the guys and asked, "Is he really the same Ji Yuchuan, the American team member with a 100% success rate?" The office worker put his hand on our hero's shoulder and said that in front of him now is Miss Lu Yao, and from today, she will be their immediate superior, so they need to exchange phones. After all, it will be much more convenient to communicate. However, after these words, the director put some photograph on the table and asked them not to rush. She looked at Ji Yuchuan with a smile and said that now they need to explain the situation to their outstanding employee so that he can understand what is going on. Ji Yuchuan looked at the new director with the face of a sociopath and prepared to pick up the right emotions. After that, the director took out a few more photographs and told Ji Yuchuan to take a look at them. Taking out the photographs, Xiaoji scratched his stubble and said that, judging by the state of the body, these people have had you for more than 3 days. And as for one of the wounds, it was most likely caused by a blunt object, and the crime was probably committed under torture. And it seems that the killer had strong hatred calm. After this, Ji Yuchuan, with an inspired face, said that his point is that first you need to find out what kind of relationship and with whom this deceased was, and it should be someone who is driven by a desire to get together. The director immediately said that this was an ordinary C-rank user who specialized in illegal business, and the management quite often conducted investigations against him. But it was always in vain because he was very cunning and resourceful. So it was very strange for her to hear that such a person was tortured to death, because if this is true, then the person who killed him must be even more dangerous. Ji Yuchuan clenched his fist and said that it is very likely that the killer is a meticulous psychopath with the minds of medicine, and he definitely did not leave behind any evidence. But if the director is willing to trust, then Ji Yuchuan will do everything possible to find out the identity of the killer. The director smiled after these words and said that anyone who is capable of tormenting a user of such a rank must be at least B rank. And Ji Yuchuan is just an ordinary office plankton. After these words, Ji Yuchuan stood at attention and said that since he joined the emigrant team, his life and death no longer matter, because it was a great honor for him to sacrifice himself for the sake of the alliance. After these words, the director threw her jacket on herself and said that there was no need for this because there was already a team of specialists working on this issue among senior management. After that, she turned around and looked into the eyes of the young man, saying that he was truly a talent that was difficult to find, so she would watch him closely. The director turned around to leave the room, and Ji Yuchuan and the second office worker immediately bowed, saying that they were very grateful to the director for such a high assessment. After finishing his workday, Ji Yuchuan headed to the city of Rose. This was the largest free trade region associated with the Institute of Enlightenment. Here you could purchase any items or information, provided that it was legal. Some residents heard the sound of the train and, looking at how it was traveling, wondered why the train leaves so late at night. Are they not afraid of attacks from predators? To which the second person said that the first person was probably the first time in this city because it is a special train called the Black Rose, and this is a whole tourist attraction event for their city. And he leaves at night and returns the next day, and the trip costs 20,000 star coins. One of those who heard this asked how it could cost so much because it would be better to simply rob these people because such expenses could provide for a family of 3 for a whole 6 months. The second man smiled and said that in the end, this train is expensive for a reason, because it is guarded by as many as 12 A-rank users. And taking this into account, many people think that the price has also reduced the price. Meanwhile, Ji Yuchuan was now inside the carriage and was opening the door to get into the next one. Entering the new carriage, he saw a worker and asked if the dishes were ready. However, when the woman turned around, he saw that in fact a monster was standing in front of him. After that, he immediately cut her throat with his scalpel in one deft movement. Looking at this with a smile, he asked, "Is this how they greet guests on the Black Rose?" A sound came from her head. A robotic voice stated that the identification check was successful, and now in front of her was an honored guest invited by the owner. When she finished speaking, Ji Yuchuan crushed her head, and a strange portal immediately opened in front of him. Entering inside, he found himself in the Black Rose Market. It was the region of underground trade responsible for this place is unknown, but as long as the guests are able to pay, they can find out whatever they want. Looking around, Ji Yuchuan thought that this dimension must be filled with special power, so it is able to hide the faces of its guests. But he was already accustomed to this disguise. Approaching the system, he opened it and thought that a simple address search costs as much as 200,000. And this is equal to the annual salary of a high-ranking employee of the Ability Management Center. So this market is black in the most literal sense. After that, the waitress approached him, offering our hero to try some snacks. Looking at this, Ji Yuchuan thought that the sight of the food here was nauseating, as always. He took a fork and spread the food. Under the food there was information that he paid for. It said that the industrial base of Country Yen had been reconstructed into a silent church in the city of Rose, and it seems that something strange has been happening there lately. After reading this, Ji Yuchuan thought that this was a rather ironic turn of events. The next day, he went to the silent church. A service was held there, and the priest absolved the sins of everyone who came here. After that, he looked at the nuns and asked if they were ready to devote everything they had to the Lord. The women nodded their heads briefly, and their bodies immediately found themselves connected by some kind of force. Everyone unanimously said that it was a great honor for them to be chosen by their Lord. After this, the mad priest said that they should come forward and dedicate themselves because the Lord had chosen them. All the nuns immediately went inside some kind of pond, and the subjects of this church began to collect water from this fountain with the words that the Lord had appeared. After that, the priest waved his hand and sealed them in strange mirrors with the words that the holy virgins went to the kingdom of the Lord, where there is no more pain, and this is a real miracle. Meanwhile, the nuns began to scream in pain and bleed, and the priest said that the Lord was blessing them and the subjects must drink their blood in order to become the most faithful servants of the Lord. Crazy-eyed subjects collected every drop of this blood. There was also Ji Yuchuan, who was approached by maids who said that they saw that there was endless darkness lurking in his heart. However, he still has a chance for redemption because the Lord is merciful. The women began to persuade our hero to drink the blood of the nuns, and after that, they would be able to live together in a new world in which there would be no place for pain and sadness. However, after this, Ji Yuchuan broke his cup, saying that this is a beautiful lie, but alas, the time has come to wake up from this dream. After that, a strange aura burst out from Ji Yuchuan's body and illuminated everything around. Looking at this, the priest was surprised. What kind of spiritual vibration is this? However, a few seconds passed and he realized that his old friend was still alive. Ji Yuchuan looked into the priest's eyes and said that he did not believe that he remembered him after 16 years. The priest said with a smile that he remembered very well the very child who made the deepest impression on him. Especially at the moment when he was killing his friends, the priest laughed and said that Ji Yuchuan was like the offspring of the devil himself. After this, the former teacher of our hero ordered his subjects to seize this man, and he also added that he allowed them to punish this blasphemer who dared to desecrate the Lord. The crowd of fanatics immediately rushed towards Xiaoji. However, with a wave of his hand, Ji Yuchuan used a skill called True Words. True words are the spiritual power of Ji Yuchuan, and Dreamcatcher is a skill that allows one to envelop an area with spiritual power and allows the owner to control people and objects within a given space. After Ji Yuchuan immobilized everyone, he said that this was an impressive performance and added that he did not expect anything else. The teacher looked at his former student and said that compared to him, they were just a bunch of useless trash. After that, he laughed and killed all those fanatics in one move. Ji Yuchuan looked at this and said that his teacher really hasn't changed and is still using people as toys. The priest looked at Xiao Ji and said that it was a real shame because whoever those lab rats were, they were just spoiled materials. And the most perfect toy he had ever used was Ji Yuchuan. After that, the priest mixed all the bodies of the fanatics together, creating a huge monster that immediately attacked Xiao Ji. Our hero rushed to the attack with a smile and said that his teacher really knows how to get on his students' nerves. However, after a couple of seconds, Ji Yuchuan realized that he would not be able to defeat this huge monster. After all, he had too much spiritual energy. The priest laughed and said that his latest toy was simply incomparable, and as soon as the enemy took a step, he would not live. To which Ji Yuchuan replied with a smile that this was quite interesting. After this, the priest looked at Xiao Ji and said that he could give him a chance to come back and correct his mistakes. However, as soon as the priest blinked, he was surprised to find that Ji Yuchuan had already defeated this monster and said that he was very sorry, but he was not going to become such an ugly monster. The priest laughed madly and said that in this case, Ji Yuchuan could say goodbye to his life, because even the most obedient dog becomes useless when it stops following the owner's commands. After these words, the monster became stronger and began to tear apart Xiao Ji's true words. Ji Yuchuan dodged the sharp attack of this monster. The priest looked at it and said, "It is advised not to waste energy because his attacks will be completely meaningless." However, after this, Xiao Ji laughed and said that he was not aiming at the priest, but at the artifact, after which the priest looked up in surprise and noticed that the painting had been pierced with a scalpel. A moment later, it swelled and exploded. After that, the real teacher of our hero came out of the picture. He scratched his forehead and said that he expected something like this from his most outstanding student, after which he smiled and said that Ji Yuchuan found him quite quickly. To which Xiao Ji said that his teacher has not changed at all and still loves to play hide-and-seek and use puppets. Immediately after this, the teacher hit the floor with his cane and a huge monster devoured the fake priest. After that, the teacher said with a smile that only weaklings beg. And now, finally, no one will stop them from having an educational conversation, because the teacher is very interested in seeing how much Ji Yuchuan has grown as his most perfect creation. As soon as Xiao Ji heard this, he rushed forward at full speed towards the huge monster and his teacher. Having tried to cut off this monster's leg, he was surprised to find that he could not attack this monster directly with the help of his physical abilities. The teacher said that the doll in front of him was specially created to suppress physical abilities, so brute force would be an unwise method. Ji Yuchuan used his true words and said that it would be a great part for him to fight his teacher. After that, he brought down several columns on the huge monster and said that as long as he refrains from directly using physical abilities, everything should be fine. The teacher said that he was not surprised that his student was still as cruel as before. And after these words, the huge monster destroyed all the columns that fell on him. And she began to attack Xiao Ji with long-range energy attacks, from which Ji Yuchuan defended himself using an energy shield. A couple of seconds later, the shield was destroyed, and the priest said that the damage that Ji Yuchuan received turned out to be much greater than that which he inflicted on the puppet. After these words, the teacher began to slowly approach his student and say that he would give him another chance to come back. Ji Yuchuan looked at his teacher and said that he thanks him for the offer. However, he added that it would be sad to do what he wants because it was the teacher who taught him this. The teacher looked at his student in surprise and asked what he was talking about. To which Ji Yuchuan replied that he meant the teacher's favorite tactic called luring prey into his trap. Immediately after these words, the teacher looked at the monster in surprise, which was immediately destroyed in one fell swoop. The teacher looked at his student and asked, "How is this possible? After all, Ji Yuchuan is connected to this monster by the strings of the puppet. So why did the damage not affect him?" After which Ji Yuchuan laughed and said that the old man was already completely weakened and these threads had been cut long ago. The teacher immediately realized that perhaps this happened at the moment of an energy attack. After this, the body of the huge monster exploded. Ji Yuchuan surrounded himself with a protective field, even before this, and said that he was perfectly prepared for such a turn. But his teacher is not in the best position right now. The teacher looked at Xiao Ji and said that after 16 whole years, His student became an A-class user and truly deserves to be called a masterpiece. After that, Ji Yuchuan kicked his former teacher in the face and said that 16 whole years have passed, and it seems the time has come to dot all the I's. He began to put pressure on the teachers' heads and said that if the teacher had not chosen Xiaoji, then his parents would be alive. However, now Ji Yuchuan must be content with the fact that he is an orphan. The teacher looked into his student's eyes and asked, "Does Ji Yuchuan really think that the organization killed his parents because they appreciated his talent?" The teacher cleared his throat a little and said that, in fact, the master said that his parents knew too much, and that is why the organization silenced them forever. Ji Yuchuan looked down and asked what gentleman the teacher was talking about and what kind of secret of the organization his parents knew. The teacher's body began to change, and he said with a smile that his student, as always, strives for knowledge. But alas, these are questions that the Grim Reaper will have to ask. After this, the huge gates of hell opened before them. This is a mysterious ritual in which living people are used as sacrifices to summon demons from another dimension, and the demons are bound by a contract to serve the summoner until he dies, or the contract is fulfilled, which will give them freedom. And from this portal, a huge purple dragon slowly emerged. The teacher under the foot of his student said that he orders this dragon to kill Xiaoji. However, immediately after this, Ji Yuchuan kicked his teacher, throwing him away from him. The teacher found himself near the dragon, and Ji Yuchuan, looking at the dragon, ordered it to devour the old man. After that, the dragon bit off the teacher's hand. Ji Yuchuan began to slowly approach him and say that now he will feel the pain that Xiaoji's parents experienced before they died. The teacher looked at his student in surprise and asked with a trembling voice how this could happen, because it was not Ji Yuchuan who summoned this demon. Xiaoji smiled and said that as soon as he saw his teacher, he activated the creation, and all this was a performance staged especially for the teacher. Creation is one of Xiaoji's abilities that can be used to predict a target's future based on the threads of fate. Ji Yuchuan looked at the old man and said that if he suddenly wants to tell who the killer of Xiaoji's parents is, then perhaps Ji Yuchuan will think about letting the old man rest in peace after death. The teacher vomited blood and looked at his student and said that he was even more outstanding than one could imagine. After that, the teacher used his spiritual threads and said that unfortunately he could never betray his master. And he also laughed and said that his master would avenge him. As soon as the teacher finished speaking, he cut his neck, leaving the hero to look in surprise at how his teacher had just beheaded himself. Immediately after this, the spiritual energy in this church changed, and another portal appeared above our hero, without which, a woman with ashen hair slowly emerged and used spiritual chains to pull down the teacher's head. Xiaoji looked at all this and could not move, although all his instincts screamed that he should run away from here as soon as possible. Meanwhile, outside the church, there were already rescuers and also a reporter who said that he was now in the local cathedral of this city. Currently, the cathedral was enveloped in an acrid, thick fog, and it was decided to send a search party there. Inside, our hero fought with demons that crawled out of hell. He deftly dealt with them, sealing them to the earth. However, the woman on the throne of human skulls ordered him not to resist because he could consider it an honor that Chelsea summons the most terrible creatures from hell. Our hero's system warned that if the owner continues to overload himself in the same way, then his nervous system will not stand it, to which Ji Yuchuan replied that he has a way out. He thought that after using his skill called decoration, he weakens for a certain time to the point of being unable to use his abilities, and such a side effect can last for a very long time. Therefore, before falling without strength, he needs to quickly finish the battle. After these thoughts, 3 more high demons attacked him, and then a huge column of dust rose. The woman with one horn looked at this and only smiled, thinking that Ji Yuchuan was already dead. However, when the dust cleared, she noticed that Ji Yuchuan had immobilized all of her demons and said that it seemed that her assistants could not even speak a word in front of him. The woman got angry and asked how such an insignificant person could dare to capture her royal ears, to which Ji Yuchuan said that he just slightly adjusted the flow of power that controls them. He also noticed that she became quieter, after which he smiled and asked, did she really no longer have any strength left? After these words, the woman stood up and took out her bow, saying that she would not forgive him. And Ji Yuchuan directed these demons that he now controlled at her with the words that he was wondering if she could play with them for more than a couple of minutes, to which the woman said that she did not understand why Ji Yuchuan thought that this garbage could compare with her. Immediately after these words, she finished off several of them with one blow and said that this was complete absurdity. However, Ji Yuchuan had already fled from this church, and the woman, noticing this, rushed after him, saying that she would not allow him to escape. After that, she used her weapon and pierced Xiaoji's back. A huge red column of energy suddenly appeared from the church, and everyone looked at it in surprise, thinking that this was a new predator that had appeared in the city. Meanwhile, a woman entered our hero's head, causing him to fall to the ground from a migraine. He screamed for her to get out of his head. And meanwhile, the woman was in his mind and said that he should not resist and should simply give her his body. Hearing the sounds of the search party outside, Ji Yuchuan laughed and said that if she is not honest, he will give himself to all the guys. The woman in his head asked if he was threatening, to which he replied that she would not be able to keep them with him because of what? The woman with horns immediately called him a scoundrel. Meanwhile, the search party had already knocked down the door to the church and prepared for the attack. However, after looking at what was happening inside, the search group realized that it was definitely not a predator. Ji Yuchuan was hiding behind one of the walls, and the search group was discussing what they should check first and whether there were survivors and send those found to the investigation center. Meanwhile, in another city, an unknown person was sitting on top of a penthouse. He held the magic ball in his hand with which he watched Xiaoji and thought that, after so many years, Chelsea had finally appeared. Looking at his servant, the mysterious man said that Chelsea is definitely not his opponent, so he must go and kill her immediately, to which his servant immediately bowed his head and said that he was obeying this order. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, had already left the church, and it was night outside. He was thinking that the predators in the area should be cleared out, so it was safe to spend the night here. He headed to the abandoned store with the thought that a side effect from the decorations would soon appear. Therefore, he needed to be careful. Upon entering the store, he immediately fell asleep exhausted. After that, Chelsea crawled out of his head. Acquiring a physical form, she licked her lips, looking at Xiaoji, and said that she was very glad that he finally fell asleep because now he would fall into a wonderful sleep as her slave. Ji Yuchuan was sleeping and had an old dream of him and his family riding in a car. His father was driving and was talking to someone on the phone, saying that the technology is already ready for the first deliveries. But before that, they must send all the reports on clinical trials. And his mother said that our hero's father said that on this fine day, he won't work. The father smiled and apologized for this, saying that soon they would arrive at the park where they would all play together. Ji Yuchuan immediately became happy and laughed. However, after that, they all heard crows cawing. Looking out the window, our hero's mother was surprised at how many there were today. Ji Yuchuan immediately hugged his mother and pressed her chest, causing the woman to ask what was wrong with her sunshine. The woman looked at her husband and said that their son was not feeling very well within himself, so it was better for them to go to the hospital. However, immediately after they got into an accident. After some time, rescuers appeared and found a living child and immediately sent him to the hospital. Ji Yuchuan looked at all this from the side, at his little self. The system in his head ordered him to wake up because this is all unreal, to which Ji Yuchuan briefly replied that he knows. He remembered his whole life and said that he was surprised that a dream could awaken such disturbing memories. Meanwhile, Chelsea summoned a demonic blade and said that this was the last dream of this pathetic man, and he should consider it a gift. However, a moment later, with fear in her eyes, she discovered that her hands were tied. Looking down, she saw that Ji Yuchuan had already woken up, frightened. She asked why her demagogy no longer worked because she commanded this space, to which Ji Yuchuan said that, alas, he is an expert in creating illusory worlds. The woman thought that she was able to reveal his hidden secrets in order to further command him, but his aura turned out to be many times stronger compared to hers. After that, Ji Yuchuan tied the demon tightly and took out his scalpel and ran it along Chelsea's neck, saying that in her beautifully created dream, he could harm her well. Chelsea immediately burst into tears and made a cute face. Inside, she thought that it was very difficult for her to get in. Yes, that's why it won't be possible to return, she cried, and begged him to let her go because she's just a little cute demon. Ji Yuchuan leaned closer to her and said that he knew very well that in front of him was Chelsea, who is called the strongest demon in hell. Chelsea immediately looked into his eyes and said that if he let her go, she would do whatever he wanted. Inside, she thought that if this man made her experience you, she would grind him into powder. However, Ji Yuchuan said that she is a great actor but is wasting her beauty. After that, he swung his scalpel, causing a scratch on her horn. After this, the woman became angry and immediately used her aura to remove the spiritual threads from herself. As soon as she did this, there was a huge explosion. Our hero was thrown back a little, and the demon, meanwhile, asked how he dared to touch her horn. After that, without waiting for an answer, she became even more angry and said that she would finish him off now. With these words, she attacked him with her hand raised. Ji Yuchuan was able to dodge and thought that he had angered her too much. However, he immediately remembered that his teacher had recently taught him that spiritual threads could repel power attacks. Immediately after, he used his spirit threads to return the damage from her next attack. When the fire settled, Chelsea wiped the soot on her face and asked how he dared to hurt her. But she immediately calmed down because she realized that he still had no strength left. Meanwhile, inside thinking that 5 minutes after using the blood spray, her body is weakening greatly, so she needs to quickly conclude an agreement with someone. Using the remnants of her strength to the fullest, she said that if Ji Yuchuan does not want to be her slave, then he will become an excellent food. However, inside she was thinking that he is so strong that she can only eat him to avoid risks. However, a second later, an unknown person attacked her. Chaining her to the earth, he put the topic on his leg and said that he found her even faster than he expected. After that, the unknown person kicked the demon with all his might. Looking at how she could not resist, he took off his hood and asked, "Is this really the strongest demon? Because in this world, there is a rating of demons, and all 36 demons are located in a certain order according to the rating of their strength. And the higher he is in the ranking of topics, he is stronger and more dangerous." After these words, at the last second he noticed that Ji Yuchuan was attacking him, but was still able to dodge. Now in the body of our hero there was Chelsea, who said, "Really? A demon who is not able to recognize the simplest illusion dares to blather on his queen." The demoness, meanwhile, was thinking that the side effect of the blood explosion allows her to support the body of the one with whom the contract was concluded. So this small demon would not be able to defeat them so quickly. Thinking about this, she waved her hand again and shouted to the low-grade demon that our hero's body was of course stupid, but it was enough to finish off the low-grade one. But the second demon was able to catch this attack and destroy it with the words that no one dares to deceive him. After that, he rushed at our hero and attacked him, but Xiaoji defended himself, and he threw this demon away from himself. After this, Ji Yuchuan immediately grabbed his head and said that his head was incredibly pounding. He said with fear that he couldn't stand it anymore, and the demon in his head asked how dare he contradict her. The second demon, meanwhile, thought that this was the perfect moment to attack, and attacked our hero. However, Xiaoji immediately defended himself and froze his hand. His body was taken over by a demoness who said that garbage will always remain garbage. Immediately after this, Ji Yuchuan regained control of his body and suddenly found himself in a piquant position with the demon. Chelsea immediately began to ask why the owner of this body was trying to stop her, to which Ji Yuchuan replied that it was she who was constantly putting a spoke in his wheels. Hearing this, the demon only became angry, and having destroyed the ice, he asked if he was being bullied. Ji Yuchuan meanwhile dodged his next attack by telling the demon in his head that they now have one common marriage, so she should give him control over this body. Chelsea regained control of this body and asked how dare a pathetic person speak to her. However, Ji Yuchuan immediately regained control, and the demoness got angry and said that she would lend him strength for a while since he was so rebellious, finally telling him not to burn because of this power. Meanwhile, the second demon again attacked our hero, saying that he hates it when they behave like that with him. However, Ji Yuchuan was already delighted with his new powers and said that he would now find out what the blood of demons is capable of. After that, extending his hand, he destroyed everything in the area with one blow. The second demon lay in the ruins, covered in blood, and asked how this man was able to harness Chelsea's power. Inside he thought with horror that perhaps they had already concluded a contract, but he still does not understand how this guy was able to use this power so calmly. Thinking that most likely Ji Yuchuan himself is incredibly strong, all he can do is give the injection. With these thoughts, he injected himself with some kind of syringe and immediately rose to his feet. His muscles increased, and he shouted that he had become stronger and now wanted even more strength. To which Ji Yuchuan attacked him again, saying that now he would disappear along with his new strength. But Ji Yuchuan immediately realized that this demon had become too fast, because now he could feel it behind him. Immediately after this, the second demon hit our hero's head on the floor. Laughing, the second demon said that in front of him was just an ordinary person and he would also die as usual. The second demon bent down to finish off the man, but his body was immediately pierced by strange attacks. After that, Ji Yuchuan blew himself up and dealt several more blows to this demon with his scalpel. Meanwhile, the Chelsea in his head was saying that using the power of the demon without concluding a contract is very difficult and risky, so the best solution is to lend a person your body. Ji Yuchuan looked at the second demon with a smile. Then he summoned a huge demonic cobra to eat the body of this demon. After swallowing it completely, Ji Yuchuan wiped his mouth, and Chelsea said that the fight was difficult. However, she had already begun to recover. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, began to lose consciousness, and the demon asked in surprise, "Is he already done?" Xiao Jihua said quietly that the human body is very weak and fragile. His legs gave way. Chelsea took on her physical form and held him back, saying that he had no other choice. Ji Yuchuan finally lost consciousness with the thought that no one could change his choice, and even the queen would not be able to do it. Chelsea, meanwhile, took out her blade and pierced Xiao Ji's chest, saying that now he is obliged to accept her gift. Ji Yuchuan woke up and looked around in surprise and thought that he had now become a demon. However, he immediately realized that in fact these are just her memories that he now sees, but they were rather abrupt, and all he noticed was how she was able to get some kind of artifact and destroyed several demons. Immediately after that, he woke up and took a deep breath. Having risen, he saw that Chelsea was sitting in front of him and looking at him with her chin propped up. Ji Yuchuan began to rise to his feet and ask what she did to him. The demon came right up to him and called him stupid, after which she added that she had just saved him. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, realized that now she could not move at all. Chelsea came even closer and said that he should have already felt her strength because now they won't be able to raise a hand against each other, because they have become one. Ji Yuchuan smiled and asked, "Was it all real?" After that, he continued to say that he already knew that she was expelled from hell for bad behavior and now wanders around the human world. The demon immediately said that it was not bad behavior, but a 200-day war of demons. She looked offended at the guy who said nothing in response. After that, they headed to the store and found some canned food to eat. Ji Yuchuan said that he didn't think that demons could get hungry. Chelsea sniffed the delicious broth and said that as soon as she arrived in this world, she immediately understood the rules that reign here. After that, our hero looked at his chest and asked where the mark came from. The demon silently looked down and blushed a little, and Ji Yuchuan, surprised by this, asked why she was looking like that. After that, the demon looked back at him and ordered him to shut up. After that, she waited a little more and said that in hell there is a special ranking of demons and where they are all located according to strength, and the number on his body shows the place in the ranking. The demon lowered her clothes a little and said that she also had such a mark. Ji Yuchuan said in surprise that she was the first on the list of demons, to which the demoness replied that, unfortunately, after the death of the king, all entries in the ranking and the memory of him were erased. However, after that, she came closer to our hero and said that in this world it became clear to her that she needed to absorb all the ranked demons in order to regain her memory, so she offered to conclude a contract. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, remembered that the demon with whom we had not just fought drank the same potion that his chief gave him, and also this topic mentioned that same person. Thinking about this, he walked up to Chelsea and hugged her waist and asked if he was suitable for this contract, inside thinking that she was also Blaze's target. The demon extended her hand for him to move away a little, and said that he had already approached the role of her partner. When he was able to see her memories, she also added that she would help him avenge his family and he would help her regain her place in the ranking. Ji Yuchuan extended his hand to the contract and said that of course he was ready for this, but he would add a couple of conditions. He began to add some conditions and added to the list that you cannot give orders, and you cannot take control of his body whenever you want. The demon looked at this and was quietly angry, saying that he couldn't do that. After that, she took him by the clothes and said that with such reservations he would definitely die, to which Ji Yuchuan asked her to be calmer, because she is the strongest demon, so he doesn't have to worry about it. Chelsea continued to be angry and thought inside that only with him she was able to establish a strong connection, so if he does not sign a contract with her, then no one will be able to use her power to its fullest. Having calmed down a little, she reconciled herself and took him by the hand and said that she would do as he wished. After that, she closed her eyes and said that the contract was concluded. Instead of where they were, a bright purple pillar of light immediately hit them. After this, Chelsea took the form of a strange demonic animal and said that she was very tired, so she would rest on her new owner. The demon immediately fell asleep and Ji Yuchuan stroked her head and said that it was pleasant to the touch. Meanwhile, the research center announced an alarm due to the fact that there was a strong release of demonic energy. So they immediately sent a detachment to find out the details. The director observed all this and said that everything was much more serious than it seemed before. She held Xiaoji's card in her hands and said that it was time for them to start the first stage. Her assistant immediately said that he would now pass this on to the others. And the director, looking at the place of the release, said that she would give this person a little more time. In the morning, Ji Yuchuan hitched a ride. He was driving with a truck driver who was talking about how the world has changed so much that predators are destroying their own kind, and all that remains is to wait for them to gnaw each other. And maybe then brighter days will finally come. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, ignored all the words of this man and thought about that the demon they just shot down was the lowest ranking one, and perhaps he was ready to rummage through the trash to satisfy his hunger. He also thought that demons most likely do not have consciousness. Therefore, it is amazing how these low-ranking ones can make a predator look like themselves. Looking at the driver, Ji Yuchuan asked, "Does he really think that these are predators?" After all, in appearance they do not fit into any classification, to which the driver said with a smile that they recently told something interesting on TV. After all, researchers have discovered a new type of predators called rippers, and they are classified as the third rank of infected. The driver laughed and said that such news came from the city of Megi. And not so long ago the government released a new official classification, and now there are 5 ranks, which will be too early. The stronger, and these demons are less common. The third rank can already infect other people, and the fourth is able to change the surrounding flora and fauna. Finally, the 5th rank predators even have some intelligence. Ji Yuchuan thought that the government was definitely hiding something, but he smiled and thanked the driver for such news, because Ji Yuchuan had not been in the city for a long time and did not know it. The driver laughed again and said that Ji Yuchuan would go with them all the way to the city after all. Now you can't get out of these wastelands on your own. And the prices for security guards have skyrocketed after the publication of the new classifier, so they are driving along the road protected by the government, and it should be safe here. Therefore, as soon as they reach one other point, they will immediately be offered a high price for the goods they are carrying. While the driver was telling this, he was smiling. However, suddenly one of the cars exploded. The driver immediately stopped his vehicle and got out to see what happened there. Approaching his friends, he asked why the car overturned and whether there were any casualties, to which he was told that the older ones were wounded and the younger one was missing. While the red-haired man was saying this, one of the demons attacked him. The driver who drove our hero immediately used his abilities to finish off this demon. After that, he clicked that it was a trap, so they should quickly carry away the wounded and get out of here. However, he was immediately attacked by another demon who was immediately killed. The driver realized that Ji Yuchuan had done this and said that he was glad that such a strong travel companion was with them. However, looking around, everyone noticed that the place was full of rippers. The driver immediately fell on his ass with the words that they will all die, and Ji Yuchuan asked why they all love this trick with mental pressure so much. Meanwhile, the demon on his shoulder woke up and asked if he wanted to use her against this garbage because she could just destroy. Ji Yuchuan smiled and said that she could start. Meanwhile, the demons were already running towards our heroes. However, Ji Yuchuan used his chains to destroy them all with one blow. The others looked at him in surprise and asked who he was, to which Ji Yuchuan replied that this was their payment for picking him up in an open field. The demon looked at all this and said that next time Ji Yuchuan must give her his body so that she can have fun too, to which Ji Yuchuan smiled and said that they will do so. A few minutes later, the rescue team arrived. Also, there was the director of our hero, who looked at everyone and asked if they were okay. The driver wanted to tell him everything that had just happened. However, Ji Yuchuan hugged him and said that the rescue team arrived just in time, because without them, they would have already died. After that, Ji Yuchuan looked at the drivers and said that they were very lucky. The driver realized that this guy was hiding something, so he just started to assent to him. The director smiled, saying that she was happy that everything ended well, after which an assistant approached her and announced that the rippers had already been captured. The director also said that she admired Xiaoji because he knows how to surprise, to which Ji Yuchuan spread his arms and said that she should not have expected anything else from him. After that, the director put her hand on his shoulder and said that there are too many people here, so they need to move to a place where no one can hear them. Right after that, she used space changes and sent them to another dimension. Ji Yuchuan looked at this in surprise. After all, he had just encountered the power of the director for the first time. The director, meanwhile, looked him in the eyes and said that they had something to talk about. Having chickened the dust with Xiaoji, she said with a smile that he had most likely already signed a contract with the demon. In our hero's head, the voice of Chelsea immediately rang out, asking him if he wanted her to kill this girl, to which Ji Yuchuan mentally replied that she should not rush, because if the director dared to meet with them alone, then she had to prepare a lot of tricks. So first you need to find out what she wants from them. Looking at the director, Ji Yuchuan said that he didn't understand what she was talking about. The director immediately turned around and said that she didn't want him to play the fool with her. She was silent for a while and asked if he had heard about heavenly wrath. Looking at the director, Ji Yuchuan said that this is an organization with a large number of strong espers. The director turned around again and said that Heaven's Wrath is a mysterious organization that emerged after the Red Rain disaster, dedicated to eradicating predators and operating throughout the world. The director came to the window and said what the organization wanted to see in its team. Ji Yuchuan said with a smile that he didn't expect that the director was a member of the Heavenly Wrath and added that their ideals were amazing. However, he had other things to do. The director folded her hands on her chest and said that he should not rush to refuse because joining this organization would be the best choice no matter what he wants to do, because the members of Heavenly Wrath can freely enter 95% of the 7 major cities and can also fully increase their power and strength master, and the demon with whom he entered into a contract. Ji Yuchuan looked down and saw that his legs were shackled and then asked, "Is it possible that if he refuses, she plans to throw him into prison?" The director waved her hand and said that everything depends on Xiaoji's choice, because those who make an agreement with demons unofficially must either join the wrath of heaven or cease to exist. Ji Yuchuan took off his glasses and used his aura to break the binding chains. After that, he looked into the director's eyes and said that he had indeed signed a contract with the demon and was ready to join their heaven of heaven. However, he immediately added that he has 2 conditions. The first is that he needs the right to choose his missions, and also Heavenly Wrath must share with him any information about demons that he wants. The director sent her back a little and thought that she felt like a poisonous snake was watching her. However, she immediately smiled because she realized that this guy had made a contract with an incredibly powerful demon, and this meant that her plan could finally be completed. Ji Yuchuan stopped using his aura and looked at the director and asked how much she knew about demons and how they appeared, to which the director immediately replied that their origin is currently unknown, while records of the appearance of demons have existed for many years. Their widespread occurrence is a recent phenomenon, and they discovered that these demons have one feature. The director used a hologram and showed that they have the ability to deter predators. Ji Yuchuan looked at the director's back and asked why, since they discovered this, they did not report it to the public and instead classified demons as predators. To which the director replied that human fear comes from the unknown, and too much knowledge would only cause chaos. After that, she turned and looked into our hero's eyes, saying that demons and predators are still monsters that need to be destroyed, so it makes no difference what to call them. Chelsea said in her master's head that no matter how much time has passed, people always like to hide something, and Ji Yuchuan thought that this organization probably has even more information about demons. Xiaoji smiled and said that since the director was sincere, he hopes that they will get along well in the future. The director smiled widely, saying that she was very glad to see Xiaoji on their team, after which she extended her hand. However, Ji Yuchuan passed by and said that they should postpone the handshake for later. Finally, he looked back and asked the director not to disappoint him. The director laughed and said that tomorrow morning at 8, she will organize a person who will take our hero to the airport, and then he will be taken to the headquarters to meet the other members of his new team. After this, Xiaoji was taken to his home and peacefully prepared a tomato salad for dinner. However, while he was cooking, Chelsea suddenly appeared straight from the shower. She was naked and holding a broken shower in her hands with the words that human things are too difficult to use. Ji Yuchuan immediately rushed into the bathtub saying that he should never have left her there alone. The demon looked at him offendedly and asked what kind of relationship this was. However, as soon as Ji Yuchuan entered the bathroom, he thought that he had been spent as a master, and now he would have to spend the whole night cleaning this bathroom. However, immediately after that, he realized that he had left her alone in the kitchen and returned back. Entering the kitchen, he saw that she had eaten everything he had prepared and asked if there was anything else that was much tastier than the food he had given her before. Ji Yuchuan immediately changed his aura to a murderous one and said that she had just eaten his dinner. The demon got scared and took the form of a small animal and said that the queen should eat when she is hungry. The next day, Ji Yuchuan went to the Heavenly Wrath apartment by agreement. Seeing the state in which Ji Yuchuan arrived, the director asked, was he really unable to sleep last night because of excitement? However, Ji Yuchuan, with an exhausted look and a beaten demon on his shoulder, said that insects had appeared in his kitchen and he had been dealing with them all night. After that, the director turned around and said that it was time for her to go. After all, the people from Heavenly Wrath were already waiting for them. They went down to some basement, and Ji Yuchuan said that he thought that the base would be located inside the headquarters, to which the director replied that the headquarters had the most modern defense system, and all exits and entrances are recorded, which would limit the actions of heavenly wrath. Looking at our hero, the director said that now she will show him how everything works here. Entering the elevator, she gave him his new identification card, which indicated the number of his room where he would now live. She used the illusion of this base to explain that it is divided into 5 floors. The top 2 floors are residential areas, and the bottom 3 are the main area where there is a training center, a mission center, and also an Esper testing center. Having descended to the lowest floor, she said that now they were heading to the testing center because first they would need to assess his abilities and physical characteristics. Having gone to the testing center, the director said that every new member of this team must undergo such testing. When she walked inside, the other scientists greeted her with a bow, and she thanked them for their hard work. After that, they approached some capsule, and Ji Yuchuan asked, "Does he just need to go inside?" Or to which the director replied that if he is not sure of safety, he can take his demon inside with him. Chelsea looked at the director, thinking that she was being hypocritical. After that, Ji Yuchuan entered the capsule where the testing process began. However, after just a few seconds, the capsule lit up red. The scientists immediately began to speak with fear in the voice, that the psionic index of this person exceeds the capabilities of the equipment. The director looked at the scientists in surprise and asked, "How is this possible?" And immediately after that, the capsule began to collapse. When she was out of order, the director approached her with the thoughts that she could not believe that this person had such a high level of spiritual vibrations, because this was exactly what she was looking for. Ji Yuchuan came out of the destroyed capsule and apologized for the fact that the machine broke down because of him. After that, he looked at his resume and asked if his physical fitness was only rated at level B. The director said with a smile that mental-type espers usually have long-range attacks, and his physical form is superior to that of ordinary espers. She also said that since he has such a high level of mental ability, they can skip the rest of the assessments. After that, they teleported to the Heavenly Wrath Research Center. Ji Yuchuan looked at the huge monster that was imprisoned in this capsule. He asked with a smile, "Is this the real reason why he was invited here?" To which the director bowed her head and said that it was so. Ji Yuchuan looked around and said that with such a large-scale research center, Heavenly Wrath must take significant steps in the study of demons, and Chelsea added that most likely the director already considers them subjects for experiments. The director slowly approached one of the capsules and said that demons appeared on Earth long before the Red Rain disaster. And this research center is actually the result of early efforts, and Heavenly Wrath is simply using it again. Looking up also, she said that the technology tree in the city center is just a superficial function of this center. But in fact, the technology tree is needed to seal raiding demons. Chelsea immediately realized that the demonic aura she felt on the way here belonged to other demons from the ranking. The director, meanwhile, continued to say that no one knows why demons appeared on Earth. However, the evil energy they emit infected an endless number of people, leading to the appearance of predators and espers. Ji Yuchuan immediately thought that probably the sources of power are connected, so it is not surprising that demons can miss the consciousness of predators. The director continued to say that under the technology tree there are communication channels and a sealing system for 36 ranked demons, and sending all the demons back to the sealing channels will end this disaster once and for all. After that, the director seriously looked into Xiaoji's eyes and said that only demons can defeat demons, so Ji Yuchuan is obliged to help his world. After a couple of seconds, Ji Yuchuan finally opened his mouth and said that he was not really worried about the future of the world. He also asked, is his contract with the demons something that they have already coordinated? The demon in our hero's head said that they must kill this woman because she is the same as the villains who are pursuing them. But Ji Yuchuan asked her to do a favor and shut up and not interfere with their conversation. After that, he activated the true words and took the scalpel in his hands and said that he did not like that the director planned his life and forced him to enter into a contract with the demon against his will. However, the director smiled and said that it was our hero's fault that he fell into this trap. Immediately after this, Ji Yuchuan threw a scalpel at the director, but the projectile flew past. The director thought that if it weren't for her ability to control space, this guy would have just killed her. Ji Yuchuan ordered his demon to take over his body right now, because this space suppresses his powers. The demon tried to come out, but immediately ran into difficulties. After that, her body was sealed. The demon began to try to break out and say that insignificant people are obliged to let her out. Ji Yuchuan looked at it all in fear. Friends, I spend a lot of time and effort retelling a single manhwa. It takes several days, and my videos don't always pay off. If you like what I do and want to support me or see more of this manhwa, please use the super thank you feature. It really helps. And a huge thank you to everyone who watches the video to the end. I really appreciate it. The director said with a smile that this is a new technology that they are working on, but unfortunately it is not yet fully polished, although it is already suitable for test purposes. Ji Yu Chuan said that it seems that not all the workers in this place are useless, and at least this research center has some results. His instincts screamed that there was danger, and he immediately raised his leg. After that, looking back, he discovered that some kind of technique had been used on him, and now he couldn't even move. Looking around again, he saw a girl with pink hair and a bow. The director said with a smile that this girl's name is Jia, and, like our hero, she is an excellent employee with 0 failure rates. However, her only mission was failed, and the conversation is about trafficking in young girls. Ji Yu Chuan immediately remembered that he had already seen this girl when he destroyed a group of mercenaries. Looking at the director, he asked, "Was it really this excellent employee who revealed his essence?" The director said that shadow demons can hide their presence, so Ji Yu Chuan did not notice when she pretended to be unconscious. After that, the director came closer and said that from the video she sent, Heavenly Wrath became interested in Xiao Ji and his abilities because his strong mental energy plays a key role in deals with demons. Ji Yu Chuan smiled and said that the director was too confident in herself for her to come so close to him. Looking down, the woman noticed that her neck was already wrapped in spiritual threads, and her whole body is constrained. Xia immediately raised her bow and pulled the string, shouting for Ji Yu Chuan to quickly let go of this woman. Ji Yu Chuan said that now everything is in his hands, and if the archer does not want the director to die, then she must let go of Demon Chelsea. However, the archer let go and the arrow flew straight at our hero, but he defended himself from this with the help of his field. After this, the archer shot at the demon, freeing her from the test device. Ji Yu Chuan immediately released the director, and a girl with pink hair ran up to her and asked, "Is everything okay?" Ji Yu Chuan slowly approached them, activating his demonic abilities, and said that they spent quite a lot of effort to lure him here and deceived him many times. So these are not very noble deeds. The archer looked at this man and warned the director that the shadow says that the demon Xiaoji is very strong, so they should not conflict. The director stood up and said that she wanted the archer to test her abilities on Xiaoji. However, she did not expect that everything would get out of control. The director looked into our hero's eyes and apologized for her inappropriate behavior. Ji Yu Chuan looked into her eyes and said that he hoped that in the future she would not make such mistakes again. And Chelsea said that people are hypocritical and even more disgusting than lower-level demons. After that, Ji Yu Chuan stroked Chelsea and asked the director what the organization wanted him to do, to which the director immediately began to explain that she had assembled a team of espers where all the members had entered into a contract with demons. They now lack the brains of the team, so they are interested in him. Looking at the director, Ji Yu Chuan said that he was not interested in being a nanny. However, the woman immediately added that he would not work for free, and in addition to ranked demons, he could deal with other demons at his own discretion, and Heavenly Wrath would provide him with the location of demons and other amenities completely free of charge. Ji Yu Chuan began to think that the goal of this organization included ranked demons and using their power, which could help him fulfill the terms of his contract faster. However, looking at Chelsea, he thought that it was better to get rid of a demon like her as quickly as possible. After that, he turned his gaze to the director and asked what his next steps were, to which the woman began to explain that they needed to head to the Wailing Tower because there was a powerful demon there, and tomorrow morning an archer would go with him to defeat this monster. And at the same time, Ji Yu Chuan will meet with the rest of the team. The director smiled with the thought that the perfect demonic squad was finally coming together. One of the members of this ideal squad checked the spiritual fluctuation and noted that it was normal as usual. The second member, meanwhile, was in the sewer where he devoured predators, and the third enjoyed the fact that he could kill monsters. In the evening, Ji Yu Chuan checked into his room. Looking at the glass of wine in his hand, he remembered his childhood, about how his teacher forced him to undergo terrible torture on the operating table. He reasoned that these two devices that he saw in childhood and that he sees in front of him now are absolutely identical, and Blaze and Heavenly Wrath most likely have a connection that he does not know about. He also thought that he had never heard of 1,000 individuals, and if it is hidden in other organizations, then this aggravates the situation even more. However, they are from here, A demon appeared in front of him and I took the glass of wine from his hands and said that he was overexerting himself. After that, Chelsea drank a glass of wine to the bottom, spilling a few drops. Ji Yuchuan looked at her and said that she was in the men's bath. The woman looked at her master and said that it didn't matter to her because she was a demon and demons don't care about such things. After that, she took her owner by the face and asked, "Is he really talking about this because he has some dirty fantasies about his partner?" Sitting on his legs, she brought her face as close as possible. And she said that as long as she controls his dreamweaver, she can invade his mental world. When she got into his head, she said that now he must humbly obey her, because she orders him to provide his body to the queen. Ji Yuchuan quietly whispered something, and the queen moved closer to hear what he said. However, our hero suddenly came to his senses and bound her with his spiritual threads, and then took her by the hand and said that the plans of the demon queen were counted right on her face. The woman walked away from him in surprise and asked how he was not enchanted, to which Ji Yuchuan replied that he never neglects his opponents. The demon queen shouted that her master was just a disgusting person, and immediately after that, Ji Yuchuan climbed into her head to see her childhood memories. He saw a beaten girl, held in her arms and told that from now on, she will be the revered demon queen. He also saw that she had experienced a lot of suffering and that the other demons obeyed her only because she shared her blood with them. After this, the queen threw our hero to the floor and said that the invasion of her memories has its consequences. She swung her hand and tried to hit him, saying that he should prepare for punishment. However, Ji Yuchuan dodged, and the queen was surprised to find that instead, she grabbed him by the hem of his robe. Looking around, she noticed that Ji Yuchuan was now standing completely naked in front of her. After that, Ji Yuchuan warmed up and said that it was she who would now be punished. The next morning, Ji Yuchuan headed to the Tower of Wailing with the archer. They reached here on foot, and the demon queen was indignant because the director did not teleport them here right away. After all, they were wasting too much of the queen's valuable time. Ji Yuchuan scratched the queen on the head and said that spatial energy requires too much spiritual power, and her actions were only aimed at intimidating them. Therefore, she will not use her abilities so often. While he was thinking about this, one of the team members suddenly jumped on him, swinging his bat. Ji Yuchuan noticed this and dodged the blow. Looking at this unknown person, he wondered when this person even managed to appear, because he is almost impossible to notice. And he is also incredibly strong. The archer immediately approached this unknown person and asked him to stop doing that. After all, this is their new partner. Ji Yuchuan looked at this guy who also looked at him back and said that Xiao Ji stinks very much. After that, he attacked our hero, swinging his bat and said that his demon said that she did not like the smell from our hero. He tried to finish off Xiao Ji. However, Ji Yuchuan used a protective spell, smoothing out his blow. A blond man appeared behind him and asked his friend to calm down, because it was impolite to treat newcomers like that. The guy with the bat noticed that they were holding his weapon and asked, "Could even their crazy guy stop him?" The guy with white hair said that this is the director's order. After that, the punk turned to his demon and said that he didn't understand why she didn't like this man's demon, but he asked to be patient a little. His bat became a wooden blade that said that for the sake of her master she would endure. Meanwhile, the archer said that she had sent the mission details to all the other participants and added that they had little time and the target was most likely high-ranking and they needed to be very careful. The guy with the bat went first and said that all this was nonsense because they could destroy everything that stood in their way. And a blond man approached our hero, extended his hand and said that his name was Ba. Ji Yuchuan looked at the bespectacled man and greeted him by introducing himself by his name. The demon on our hero's shoulder warned her master that the man in front of him was many times stronger. The queen began to quietly say that he wanted his body. However, Ji Yuchuan covered her mouth. After that, the five of them headed to the Wailing Tower. Having walked deeper, the punk said that the place looked simply disgusting. They were attacked by water demons, but the punk immediately killed one of them and said that these creatures move through water pools, so you need to be careful. The little boy took the punk by the clothes and asked him to protect him, to which the punk said that his brother shouldn't worry at all. After that, he killed several more demons and declared that it was the responsibility of the elders to protect him from his younger brother. The younger one looked at this and said that the older one was still as impulsive as always, but that's normal. He used his skill called gluttony and swallowed the rest of the demons, saying that the further they go, the more of these things there will be. Meanwhile, the blonde walked with the archer together and recalled the conversation with Xiao Ji. The blonde said that he suggested that he move together because the barrier demon can hide their presence, making reconnaissance easier. To which Ji Yuchuan replied that he prefers to work alone. so now the blonde said that it was reasonable to send the brothers together. However, he doubts how rational it is to allow a newcomer to act independently of everyone else. The archer closed her eyes and said that the mission was specifically designed as an initiation test, to which the blonde said that the initiation test with a 3-star difficulty is too much, so the newcomer must be really strong, and it looks like they have another very strong ally. However, the archer briefly replied that this was not so, and that this guy was actually very dangerous. Meanwhile, Ji Yuchuan walked around this tower, and the queen said that they were just walking in circles, so she did not understand what her master was doing. Ji Yuchuan said that if he is not mistaken, then they came across a spirit wall and the queen said that everything here is covered with this sticky substance and looks simply disgusting. Looking around, Ji Yuchuan said that the monsters that keep appearing are very similar to mermaids. Meanwhile, the queen warned her master to be careful because she felt something approaching them at full speed. And as soon as he looked back, he saw that a demonic mermaid was standing in front of him, and this is a demon of rank 31, who is now looking at our hero and saying that he should give her a child. The queen said that her master could agree, and perhaps the mermaid would be happy to let them go. However, Ji Yuchuan asked the queen to shut up. After that, he hit the mermaid and said that having children is necessary with the one you really love. Using spiritual threads, he struck again and said that the mermaid should value herself and her beauty. However, the Rusalka dodged all the blows and looked at our hero in surprise. After that, she grabbed her cheeks and said that she was very ashamed because she was called beautiful, so she doesn't know what to do now. She came a little closer to our hero and asked how many children he wants from her. She also added that she heard that people need to name their children something, so they can come up with many beautiful names. However, while she was saying this, Ji Yuchuan was using spiritual missions to launch several precise attacks. The Rusalka's body was killed, and she immediately restored it in another place in the tower, saying that she was very indignant because she did not even have time to ask the name of her betrothed. Because of this, she began to get nervous, and the entire tower was flooded by the tsunami. All the other participants in the mission, as soon as they noticed that there was a flood here, immediately broke out the windows and found themselves on the street. The brothers were happy that their wallpaper was in order, and the blonde said with a smile that this always happens when someone does not follow an order, and this is what Ji Yuchuan deserves. The brothers looked at these two in surprise and asked, "What about the newcomer?" The blonde wanted to answer something, but the punk said that he had probably already died there and it was for the best, because he was useless in any case. However, the archer opened her radar and said that his life signal was still present on the radar. Looking at this building, they said that they should probably wait for it a little longer. Meanwhile, the mermaid returned to Xiaoji and the queen. She separated the queen from him and imprisoned her in a bubble, and then approached Xiaoji with a maniacal smile. The queen meanwhile said that the rotten creature does not dare to touch the queen's things. And the mermaid climbed onto Xiaoji and said that she really likes this guy, and she really wants him to give her a child. After that, she took the pearl out of her chest, saying that she knew that this man had already signed the master-servant agreement. However, this is not a problem for them because he can sign another contract, after which she opened his mouth to put a pearl there, and also said that she wanted them to never part. She continued to say that there was only one step left, and a new contract would be concluded, and then they would be together forever. However, suddenly Ji Yuchuan came to his senses and apologized, and said that he was not interested in raw food. After that, he took out his scalpel and delivered a precise blow to the side of this mermaid. The mermaid immediately contacted him and began screaming in pain. After that, the queen used a spell and said that her game wasn't that bad. Looking at the killed demon, the queen said that she did not expect that the Rusalka would be so stupid that she would allow herself to lower her guard. Meanwhile, the Rusalka was lying on the floor and scratching her back, saying that she was very sad and in pain. She cried and asked why Ji Yuchuan cheated on her. Her past appeared before her eyes. She remembered how she came out of the sea and found a man without powers. Approaching him, she fell in love with him and left him standing on his feet. They spent a lot of time together and were happy. However, soon, when he had fully recovered, he put it up for auction, like the meat of a mermaid that appears once in a millennium. The girl begged to be saved. However, no one heard her, and they all bet on her meat. Suddenly, she discovered her lover in the crowd, who said with a smile that this stupid creature was very valuable. Remembering this whole traumatic experience, Rusalka smiled evilly and said that she was deceived, but she absolutely doesn't care, because when everyone she loves becomes corpses, they can be with her forever. The Rusalka then rose to her feet and assumed her true demon form. The demon queen immediately completely united with her master, saying that it had been a while since she had a real battle. Ji Yuchuan jumped up and swung his scythe, saying that this might be a little difficult. After that, they exchanged a couple of blows with the mermaid. However, Ji Yuchuan was stronger and struck her first. Noticing the power of her attack, he realized that if he missed even a blow, he would probably turn into dust. The queen in her master's head asked if he was afraid, to which Ji Yuchuan said that right now he was anxiously excited about an interesting battle. After this, the mermaid took on a liquid form and immediately found herself next to our hero, who said that if she moves through water, she actually makes her body available to others. He immediately turned around sharply and stuck his scalpel into her tentacle with the words that he had finally caught her. The mermaid looked at this in surprise and immediately found herself chained with chains without the strength to move. However, she began to mutter some kind of demonic spell, which caused another tsunami to occur inside the building. Ranked demons have special powers based on rules. The higher their rank, the higher the power they possess. After this tsunami, the mermaid destroyed the chains and threw our hero into the wall. Ji Yuchuan immediately realized that her speed had increased dramatically. After that, the mermaid seemed to melt and use a 100 enhancement technique called the illusion technique. The queen irritably said that her attacks did not affect this mermaid, and she was so annoyed because she wriggled like an eel. However, Ji Yuchuan swung his weapon and said that something that cannot be caught should simply disappear. The queen asked, "Does he really have a plan?" To which Ji Yuchuan replied that he has something like that. However, he will have to be patient a little. Charge your braid with your energy. He said it would be quite noisy. After that, he thrust his scythe into one of the windows and ran through them, destroying them all at once. Those who stood on the street began to cover themselves from the shrapnel and did not understand what was happening inside. After that, Ji Yuchuan took out his spiritual threads and used true words, igniting them. The water around began to evaporate, and the Rusalka immediately appeared screaming in pain. As soon as she assumed her physical form, Ji Yuchuan pierced her with his chains. The mermaid began to cry and said that she was in great pain. However, as soon as Ji Yuchuan pierced her with his spiritual energy, he saw her past and also heard her thoughts that she did not want to die at all. Pictures of how she had been deceived by everyone flashed before his eyes. He saw how her lover, who later sold her at auction, taught her to speak and treated her like a princess. And all this in order to sell her at a higher price as a smart monster. The next thing he saw was a mermaid covered in blood. At this auction, she killed absolutely everyone and ate the body of her lover who deceived her. After this, her psyche was shaken because she ate the person she liked most. Now Rusalka was thinking with tears in her eyes that it was possible that death was the best outcome for her, considering what she had done. Ji Yuchuan looked at all this and realized that she had sealed her memories because of pain. After this, the demonic Queen Cobra appeared, and the queen herself said that now the mermaid would finally be swallowed up. However, suddenly Ji Yuchuan used his spiritual threads to stop the cobra. The queen looked at him in surprise and asked why he was stopping her. Ji Yuchuan briefly replied that it was not worth fighting the wrath of heaven over a demon of such a low rank, because they still needed information to collect other ranked demons. The queen looked at her master and asked if he dared to order her, to which Ji Yuchuan replied that he was just planning for the long term. Inside, Ji Yuchuan was thinking that given the restrictions of their contract, the demon could not cause mortal harm to him. However, if he received another blow from her in his current state, it could end badly. After that, the cobra demon stuck out her tongue and licked her master's sweaty cheek, saying that it didn't seem like a lie. After this, the queen again took the form of a cute animal, saying that the owner should not pretend to be smart because her patience is not endless. After this, Ji Yuchuan breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that it was finally over. Meanwhile, the news reported that one of the 7 cities had just fallen. The archer received an emergency alert and, opening her watch, said that there was a problem in one of the cities, so the director needed this team as soon as possible. The blonde sadly said that the newcomer still had not appeared, and the brothers laughed and replied that it was better for him to die if he was so weak. However, immediately after these words, they noticed that a huge piece of ice appeared from the building, shrouded in spiritual chains. Someone threw a piece of ice on the ground, and standing on top of him was Ji Yuchuan, who said that he was finished. After that, he looked at his team and asked, "Weren't they supposed to destroy the demons?" The younger brother said that there was probably a problem with their information, because this demon clearly had no rank. The entire Ji Yuchuan was able to defeat him. This means that the demon is too weak, but the archer immediately checked the information and said that there were no errors. After that, she used spatial magic to direct the demon to the research center and briefly noted for the report that on July 1st, 1044 at 16 hours and 22 minutes, a demon of rank 31 was captured. After that, the blonde slowly began to clap and say that he was glad that such a strong person was on the team. Ji Yu Chuan asked to skip these outdated pleasantries and said that the blonde was the owner of the barrier demon contract. The guy adjusted his glasses and said that it was so. The younger brother said that he did not understand how this guy could defeat this demon alone. And the elder brother looked at Xiao Ji in surprise and said that if he could fight such a strong demon alone, who doesn't necessarily have to fight, after that, he charged his katana with energy and started running towards Xiao Ji. However, the archer immediately fired near his leg, causing him to stop moving. After that, she said that the elder can start fights with anyone after completing the mission. And now the main task is to support the fallen city and its liberation. After this, the elder brother said that once the problems in this city were settled, they could settle their scores with Ji Yuchuan. The queen sighed heavily and said that this guy was not easy to deal with. However, Ji Yuchuan looked at the blonde and thought that the truly strong person here probably still had not shown his true colors. After that, they all immediately headed to the headquarters where they boarded an armored car and headed to the fallen city. The queen looked at the blonde and said that this guy looks pretty tasty. And above the heroes thought that demons' barriers can open their presence. What makes them artificial is worship from attacks from predators and other demons, and such a trait is very useful in battle. But keeping demons moving and spending so much energy for so long requires serious mental effort, so he definitely strong. The queen looked at her master and asked if he knew what kind of person you need to be to enter into contracts with demons. Ji Yuchuan looked at her in surprise, and the queen began to say that there are only two types of such people. Some of them are villains, and others have their own secrets. After this, the queen looked around and asked if her master could guess which of them was which. However, Ji Yuchuan said that he was not interested in talking about others, and asked his demon what kind of person he was in her opinion. To which the queen replied that he was clearly the type of person who was disgusting and full of secrets. The blonde, meanwhile, looked ahead and thought that the city that fell was in fact a prison run by a heretical faction, and that it would probably attract a lot of demons. Meanwhile, in this city, predators and demons raged. Dorne was a gathering place for criminals controlled by a heretical faction, where those who violated the laws of the Alliance live, and they work there to atone for their mistakes for the good of society. At the end of the day, the team finally arrived at their destination. The director and her assistants were also there, who said that the fog around the city was similar to the one that appeared in the temple without shadows earlier, but with a much greater concentration, and the existing methods of protection were not completely effective. The commander looked at everything that was happening and asked, "What about the scent commands?" To which the assistant replied that they had already lost contact with the first and second teams, and the signal of the surviving members of Team 3 was also weakening, and the laboratory suspected that there could be living forms in this fog. The director ordered to monitor the signal of the remaining members of Team Number 3, and urgently asked the laboratory to speed up the work to find out how much more information they can collect about the fog. The assistant, having listened to all this, said that he would immediately begin completing the tasks. The director, meanwhile, was thinking that she still had to wait a little longer until the members of the demon squad arrived at this place. Meanwhile, an unknown man in this fallen city approached the fat man and asked if this food met his requirements. The monster, which seemed to be sewn from other people, looked back at this man and said that it was very tasty for him. And after that, he added that he was eating now. But the unknown person said that he was just watching because 3 days had already passed, and the minions must have almost completely destroyed the population of this city. Also, the unknown person said that everything is fine and Fatty can continue to enjoy his food. The inside is unknown, and thought that it is difficult to communicate with such low-level garbage that can barely speak. The unknown person came closer and took out a book with an eye that looked as if it were alive. He said that he was here to remind the fat man that the real enemy was almost on the threshold of their doors, so the fat man should remember their agreement. After that, the man stroked this monster and told him to continue the buses of spirits and destroy people in this city. After all, everyone here believes in him, and the rest depends on the fat man, so he should not disappoint his master. Meanwhile, all the squads and the director were at a temporary base near this city. The director said that 3 days ago this city was attacked by unknown creatures, which was followed by a mysterious fog that interrupted all communications, and not one of the teams that she sent for reconnaissance never returned. Explain the situation fully to the squad of demons. She asked if they had any thoughts about this. The archer said that the fog was similar to the one that appears when summoning demons, and most likely it was connected with them. And the older brother said that they could just rush in there and kill everything that moves until they get to the main boss. The archer said that they can't act like that because they don't know what's going on inside. She and the hero asked the director, What will happen if this is a trap? The blonde raised his finger up and said that in this case, he and someone else could go first on reconnaissance. However, the director briefly answered that now everything will be different, and Ji Yuchuan will go on reconnaissance along with the archer. The blonde said in a worried tone that Ji Yuchuan is still a newcomer, so he is unlikely to be suitable for this mission. However, the director said that the blonde has already used his barrier demon all the way, so she doubts that he will have enough strength to cope with the upcoming mission perfectly after a day and night constant voltage. And looking at the brothers, the director said that they knew how to fight well, but they were suitable for such work, which is why the brothers muttered something dissatisfied under their breath. The director looked at Xiaoji and said that she did not want to add unnecessary risks before the mission began. So now Ji Yuchuan and the archer are the best candidates for this mission. Ji Yuchuan raised his hands and said that he could take this as approval. However, he said that he was ready to handle this mission completely alone and he did not need an assistant. But inside, he was thinking that the Blaze organization was deeply interested in summoning the demon and maybe they were behind it what happened in this city too. And this is a good opportunity for investigation. Therefore, he does not need extra ears and voices. The director briefly said that it was better that she was not so familiar with carrying out such missions, so this time she would go along with Xiaoji, looking at the other members. She said that the others should be ready to act at any time, but for now they can rest. The queen looked at her master and said that the director wants someone to constantly watch him, but Ji Yuchuan mentally turned to your demon and said that this is not important for him. After all, they will still act in their own way and no one will convince them. After that, the director used her magic and directed them to the center of this city. Ji Yuchuan thought in surprise that the director was able to temporarily transfer her abilities into a cube, which then allowed others to use them. And he did not expect that the director's abilities could be used. Thus, after that, he raised his hand to summon the demon. However, the archer asked him to wait a little. Looking up, they saw a demon dragon carrying several people in its mouth. After that, he dropped them on one of the streets, and the rest of the predators immediately attacked them. The archer looked at this in surprise and asked why feed these predators with a demon. And Ji Yuchuan realized that it seems that the situation here is much more complicated than they thought before. One of the predators noticed our heroes and immediately attacked them. However, Ji Yuchuan used a protective barrier to fight it off. After that, the archer took out a mastered bow and asked Ji Yuchuan to remove the barrier in 2 seconds, to which Ji Yuchuan agreed. 2 seconds passed and Ji Yuchuan immediately removed the barrier and the archer finished off this monster with 1 shot. After that, the archer looked at the defeated monster and said that for now, it was safe here. However, she noticed someone else's presence and immediately looked back, pointing her bow at the unknown person. It was an old man who, looking at our heroes, asked if they had special abilities. The squad did not answer, and the man asked them where they came from, but the archer poked him with an arrow and ordered him to remain silent. Ji Yuchuan remembered that the director said that if they meet survivors, they should use the identity of the alliance because it will be more convincing than being perceived as just another small group. However, look at the one person in front of him. Ji Yuchuan thought that he did not expect that there were survivors. After that, he took out his document and said that they were from the alliance, and they were sent here to help this city. Therefore, he wondered who was standing in front of him now. The man came up and read the document. After that, he sighed with relief and was glad that the alliance had finally sent people. Lowering his hand, he introduced himself by his name and said that he was a local mechanic. However, this is not the place for talking, so they must follow him to a safe place. They approached the sewer, and the man opened the hatch with the words that most of the survivors were hiding there. The archer looked at Xiaoji, but Ji Yuchuan understood what she wanted to ask and said that according to the data they were given, even if it was a hidden mouse, they should still pursue it. So they headed into the hatch and closed it behind them. Once inside, Ji Yuchuan was surprised to notice that everything here doesn't look like the usual sewer. And the man said that before the Red Rain disaster, this place was called Momen, and this place is a confirmation of flooding. So the underground drainage system here is quite developed, and they survived thanks to this place. Ji Yuchuan looked at the mechanic and said that the man knows this place well and apparently has already lived here for a very long time. To which the man replied that before the Red Rain disaster he lived here, and this place is his hometown. Having gone even further, he opened a door and in front of them was some kind of abandoned warehouse. The man said that this place is difficult to find for those who are not familiar with underground structures and it should be safe here. The queen immediately said that there is an unpleasant smell everywhere here that even affects her perception. And Ji Yuchuan covered her mouth and looked at the man and asked, "Why are there no other survivors visible here if it is as safe as he says?" Immediately after this, several people came out of cover and opened fire on our heroes. However, Ji Yuchuan defended himself against this. After Ji Yuchuan, he took out a scalpel and told the archer that it looks like these are ordinary criminals who are being held here. The archer said that in any case they should talk to them first. However, immediately after these words, a cage fell on them. Ji Yuchuan looked at it and immediately realized that this was the source stone, and the archer confirmed these words. And the source stone is a rare mineral that appeared after the Red Rain disaster and has the ability to seal abilities, which is why the abilities of our heroes immediately dissipated. The man who led the detachment here shouted that everyone else could leave, and suddenly refugees appeared. They looked at this old man and asked if he had brought medicine for them, to which he replied that the surface was badly damaged and he could not find the exiled faction's supply of medicine anywhere. One of the women came closer to him and asked what they should do in this case. After all, if they do not take the antidote for the dove, then tomorrow they will all die here. The man smiled and said that the woman should not worry because they have an ace up their sleeve, after which he looked back at the squad that had arrived here. Ji Yuchuan folded his arms and said that he knew that the exiled faction would not be able to control so many criminals without drugs. And the archer said that the cage probably serves as a means for the exiled faction to control criminals, and it is not a real channel but an underground prison. The man spread his hands and said that they were finally able to figure it out, because this place where they are now is actually not a bunker, but a prison where they used to live in eternal darkness and endless labor. After that, he lowered his clothes a little and said that the so-called dove poison plagues them every second. The archer looked at him and briefly asked why, if it was so painful, they didn't refrain from stealing in the first place. The man looked at her in surprise and she continued to say that the iron wire hidden in his wrist could be explained as a temporary tool that he had to use during the disaster. Ji Yuchuan continued saying that, however, the equal length of his index and middle fingers is the result of years of training for theft. The man immediately began shouting for them to shut up. After all, they cannot understand their pain, but the woman tried to calm him down by saying that getting an antidote from them is now a priority, so they should not break down. After that, the woman said that the Alliance people must deliver transport, supplies, and medicine before the evening, and if the two of them refuse, then they will simply remain here to rot and wait for their death. The archer raised her watch and said that she would also like to contact the Alliance. However, the entire city is shrouded in fog that blocks the signal. People immediately started shouting that they were lying, so if they were able to get inside, then there must be a way to get out of here. From these screams, Ji Yuchuan covered his ears, and the queen said that next time he should try to understand the true intentions of these people. After this, Ji Yuchuan stated that they had already waited enough time. Therefore, the archer demon had to recover. The girl smiled and stomped her foot on the floor. All the survivors immediately realized that they now could not move or even speak. They did not understand how it worked, because the stone and the source was supposed to suppress the abilities of these people. The archer, meanwhile, said that in addition to 26 people, there are 14 more hiding, but they are all under the control of her demon. After that, Ji Yuchuan said that it was time for them to open this cage, and the queen said that they should have done this a long time ago because an ordinary source stone cannot block demonic forces. After that, Ji Yuchuan summoned his huge scythe and destroyed this cage. After that, he took out a scalpel and pointed it at the man, saying that now he will find out what exactly happened in this city. Ji Yuchuan saw the past where this man was working in an underground quarry. He was happy that there were still only 215 blocks left and they would finally finish, and his brother asked if the man had noticed that recently there were somehow fewer people, to which the man replied that there was no point in speculating because there were only 2 left years and they will finally leave this colony. After this, the brother said that he was wondering why the exile faction needed all these stones, and the observer immediately hit him with a whip, saying that they could not talk. The man also said that if they talk at the workplace, it means that today there will be twice as much work for them. One of the brothers said that this one was abusing his power for personal revenge. After this, the observers approached this man and hiccuped him right in the stomach, saying that he did not dare object to the guards. After that, he looked at the rest of the prisoners and said that the rest of the pigs should hurry up and move their buns. Because if they had not been shown kindness by the exile faction, then these criminals would have died in the wasteland long ago. Suddenly, another person approached the observer and whispered something in his ear. After that, the man smiled evilly. and he announced that the work was finished for today because the prisoners deserved their turn to dine with their distinguished guests. They put handcuffs on everyone, and the observer said that they had to behave decently. After this, the prisoners went to the surface of the mining enterprise of this city. The brothers saw sunlight for the first time in a long time and immediately covered their eyes because it was too bright. The man's brother said that it seemed like these people were acting a little strange today, to which he agreed and said that today was indeed an unusually quiet day. The leader of the exile faction was sitting on her throne, and next to him there was a very strange man who said at that time it came out, and it was time to start the feast. After this, the man shouted that it was time to serve food, and the predators were immediately released, which furiously attacked the prisoners and began to devour them. The man, meanwhile, could not understand what was happening. After all, because of the exile faction, everyone suddenly turned into predators. This means that they were conducting some kind of secret experiment. One of the prisoners looked at the brothers and said that he knew that they were great at opening locks. Therefore, if they help, he would help them in return because he has abilities. The brothers agreed, and another guy came up saying that he also has abilities. After this, the brothers deftly opened 2 locks, and the men with abilities were glad that their abilities had finally returned. After that, they began to attack the military, who turned into predators, saying that they would finally be able to pay back these military men. The man looked at all this and thought that these handcuffs were made of mind stones, which means that these rough stones can suppress special abilities. The mysterious man scratched his head and said that he did not expect any rats to appear at their feast today. After that, he summoned the dragon demons and said that he would have to carry out the plan in advance. All the prisoners began to look at these demons in surprise and did not understand what was happening. The brother of the hero of this story pushed him to cover him from one of the dragons and died at that moment. After that, he stood up and said that when these demons disappear, they will run away from here together and finally return home. The man with blue hair cried when he saw his brother die, and meanwhile his brother said that they no longer need to do dangerous things for each other and they could finally return to their small village. His gaze dimmed and he simply began to say that he wanted to try his aunt's apple pie. The man with blue hair cried and told his brother that he must wait until they get out, and together they will buy whatever they want. He begged his brother not to fall asleep and said that they still needed to return to their small village to plant many flowers right in front of their house. However, the brother already realized that he was dying and apologized, after which he ran his hand over his face and asked the man with blue hair to promise him that he would survive no matter what. The man continued to cry while everything around him was burning with fire. A lonely prisoner who was holding his dead brother in his arms was noticed by one of the demonic dragons and tried to finish him off. However, one of the holders of abilities saved him. They left him near some wall and he still held his brother in his arms, taking him with him, and thought that he had to do something, but not just to reveal the secrets of this city. Ji Yuchuan finished reading the man's memoirs and said that, as expected, the demons have united into predators, and it seems that they are the criminals of this city. The archer said that she had already given them medicine to temporarily calm them down, and these shadows protect them if they find themselves in danger. Ji Yuchuan looked in surprise at the fact that small shadows appeared near them and asked if the archer really had such abilities. However, after that, he laughed and said that these shadows could not protect anyone. After that, without turning around, he used his ability to destroy the wall and said that as soon as they leave, the guy behind this wall will devour them all. When the wall collapsed, a strange man with red eyes appeared who said that he did not expect to be found so easily. Ji Yuchuan looked at the unknown person and asked, "Is he really the one behind the fog outside the city?" and also asked what happened to the rest of the troops. The man laughed and said that he was sorry that these were their friends. However, he had already eaten them all and they tasted pretty good. After that, he threw fog at them and said that now it was their turn to be eaten. Our heroes looked up and saw that this man was capable of pretending to be smoke. The monster laughed and said that in this fog, he is an absolute god, and you can do absolutely whatever you want. Ji Yuchuan took out his scalpel and said that this is a rather annoying guy, after which he asked the queen, "Do all these demons really have such a huge sense of their own importance?" To which the queen, offended, asked what he was talking about now. After that, she used one of her abilities and ordered her master not to put her on the same level as this trash. The demon was immobilized, and the archer was already ready to shoot at him. Inside, she reproached herself for not realizing that the enemy had been pursuing her for so long and for the fact that she had relaxed too much. After that, she fired and the fog cleared. However, looking at Xiaoji, the girl said with caution that the shadow was telling her that she had missed. Ji Yuchuan shouted at her to be careful, and the girl noticed someone's presence behind her. After that, the fog immediately began to consume her body. The fog laughed and said that in front of him there were real idiots who thought that they could get through the fog. Ji Yu Chuan noticed that the air was being sucked in by something, after which he looked at the queen and asked, "Are they really bothering her because there is nothing to breathe here?" The queen laughed and said that this is the beauty of being a demon. After all, they adapt to different conditions and they are as fragile as people. Meanwhile, the demon shouted that he is the strongest because humans are not capable of fighting with air, and this is his unique and superior technique to fight against humans. After that, the fog began to attack with its energy, and Ji Yuchuan dodged and thought that if they continued in the same spirit, they would only accelerate oxygen depletion, and they were already sucking out energy, so they could not continue this duel for long. Immediately after this, the queen appeared in front of him. However, the demon laughed and said that it doesn't matter who stands in front of him, because in this fog, he is the strongest. But immediately after that, the queen used her skill and destroyed all the fog, returning his physical body. The monster looked at this in surprise and did not understand why his fog cleared, and Ji Yuchuan immediately appeared in front of him. And he enveloped his body with his spiritual powers and also dealt several precise blows with a scalpel. The monster began to shout that he would not forgive our hero for destroying the womb that the Lord himself had given him. After that, he took hold of his eyes and said that if they thought that by hitting his real body the fog would disappear, then they were real fools because they would all die here. After this, Ji Yuchuan activated his demonic chains and said that this is unlikely to happen because monsters very often underestimate people, because people are actually not as weak and ignorant as demons think. After that, Ji Yuchuan began to spin the chains over your head, and the monster was surprised that this guy was using them to dispel the fog. The archer finally came out of captivity and began to inhale the air greedily. Looking at Xiao Ji, she was surprised at how strong this guy and his contract demon were and wondered what they were really capable of. Meanwhile, the monster began to stutter and say that this time he would spare them. Immediately after that, he began to run away and think that he could escape and return to the Lord. However, the archer immediately hit his face with her arrow. After that, there was an explosion and the archer said that this time it would not allow him to leave. When his body was destroyed, Ji Yuchuan walked up to him. Looking at the topic, Ji Yuchuan said that he had a very unusual appearance, and the demon, meanwhile, began to cry and say that he could not understand how such a magnificent person like him was brought down to such a state. Ji Yuchuan threw this demon to the queen, telling her to eat it. However, the queen refused and said that it was simply disgusting and the owner himself would absorb this power. The demon began to say that he was already too weak and did not have much strength. However, Ji Yuchuan immediately destroyed him with his goals, saying that he had had enough of talking. After that, the archer approached Xiao Ji and said that she had long wanted to ask something. She was silent for a while and said that she noticed that his demon could take a human form. Ji Yuchuan looked at her and asked, "What does it matter to her?" And the archer immediately took up her walkie-talkie, saying that she had received a message from the director, and Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, was thinking that it seems that someone in the demonic squad also has a demonic contract with a humanoid. Therefore, he needs more detailed information about others. Meanwhile, the director conveyed through the earphone that she was very glad that she was finally able to get through to her people, and ordered them to urgently evacuate from this city. The archer asked in surprise for what reason. But the connection began to be interrupted and all she heard was that the demons began to approach. Meanwhile, the survivors began to regain consciousness and ask our heroes what exactly they and the exile faction are planning to do. The archer said that they were a rescue team sent by the Alliance. And besides, if they were from the exile faction, they would have long ago killed everyone who survived on the spot. The others began to say that these two were right, and they had no choice. The man closed his eyes and said that he agreed with these conditions and they would go together. However, he was immediately killed and a huge fat demon from 1,000 different people appeared in front of them. The fat man looked at the squad and said that these two were just perfect. Meanwhile, his body continued to consume the rest of the survivors who begged for salvation and screamed in pain. They were still alive in his body. However, Fatty patted them on the head and said that they were too loud and should shut up. The archer said that usually demons absorb the soul directly. So why are all these people still conscious? Ji Yuchuan raised that seeker and asked the queen if she felt something strange. The queen said that the scent of the mist demon was still in the air, so she couldn't distinguish it right now. Ji Yuchuan said that everything was clear to him and rushed at this demon in a frontal attack. He pierced his forehead with his chain and immediately said that this was not a demon in front of them, because his chains did not absorb any demonic power. Meanwhile, Fatty began to cry and asked these two why they were making fun of him. Ji Yu Chuan laughed and said that in front of them was the most ordinary fifth-rank predator, and now he was getting really interested. Meanwhile, the others were on the outskirts of the city and thought that the military who became predators were most likely infected quite recently, and these predators burst out of the city in a frenzy after the fog cleared, which means that the main purpose of the fog was not to prevent them from entering to this city and to prevent these creatures from getting out. Punk looked at his team and asked, "Did the fogs really protect?" The director briefly answered that everything was unlikely to be so rosy, and the blonde said that he could not restore contact with the signals of their team members in this city, and also he had no idea what was happening to them inside the city. The director thought about inside that it is unthinkable to infect so many people in just a few days, and probably this city is hidden by a predator from the 5th level. Therefore, all that remains is to pray that her team does not meet with him. Meanwhile, our heroes continued to fight off the predator, and Fatty crawled on the floor and said that he was really hungry. Ji Yu Chuan continued to fight and thought that everything would go very strangely because this guy regenerates much faster than a 4th-level predator, but his intelligence is not comparable to the intelligence of a 5th-level predator. I looked at my friend and asked her to immobilize this predator. The girl immediately shot an arrow right at this fat man. He found himself immobilized and began screaming loudly that he was tied up and was very uncomfortable. And Ji Yu Chuan ran at him, swinging his scythe, and said that pretending to be pathetic demons looked simply disgusting. After that, he cut his stomach, and the subject began to say that he didn't like it because all the delicious things would spill out. After that, he laughed and realized that his pretense was not working, so he grabbed the shadow and began to eat it. Ji Yu Chuan looked at this and didn't understand how this predator could absorb the shadow demon archer. After all, this guy seems to be getting smarter, and also his abilities seem to be growing. The fat man looked at Xiaoji and said that he was very hungry so he would eat them now. Ji Yu Chuan realized that it was time for her to give it her all. Calling the queen, he said that in a moment this predator would be at her disposal. After that, Ji Yu Chuan used his strongest ability and the world around him seemed to be transformed. A huge mouth appeared above the fat man, and Ji Yu Chuan spoke the true words. He found himself in his dream weaver, in the form of a small child. Ji Yu Chuan stood nearby and read a report that the patient, due to a difficult birth, died from excessive blood loss after the birth of a boy. After that, Ji Yu Chuan began to take off his mask and said that his guess was correct. And for someone who is still growing, this predator's mental strength is still its greatest weakness. After that, Ji Yu Chuan swung his scalpel and said that he would now put an end to the sins of this predator. However, suddenly the woman he thought was dead grabbed his hand and began to beg, begging for Ji Yu Chuan to visit her child. Also behind Xiaoji, an unknown person appeared who was surprised that before this predator was an ordinary child. Ji Yu Chuan immediately looked at the unknown person and realized that he could not move due to the presence of this person. Ji Yu Chuan began to frantically think about who could be in front of him now, and also why a third-party element had appeared inside his dreamweaver. Meanwhile, the man said that the child was lucky. After all, he has a very loving mother, picking him up in his arms. The unknown person said that he was taking this child. After this, strange things began to happen, and Ji Yu Chuan frantically tried to cancel the true words. Having come to his senses, he was immediately thrown back by an unknown force. After that, he was surprised to find that his dreamweaver was still working, and he was now seeing the true form of this predator. Ji Yu Chuan continued to be in his technique along with the predator embryo. Various monsters tried to attack him. However, the demon queen killed each of them. She devoured them and said displeasedly that they simply tasted terrible. Looking at the next one, she thought that perhaps her owner could turn this into something edible, and then they would be at least a little tastier. The archer looked at the queen and said that her shadow was telling them that a powerful force was approaching them and that these were probably predators and demons from the city attracted by their battle. Looking into the distance, the archer said that they did not have much time to prepare, and if Ji Yu Chuan did not regain consciousness soon, they would all die of exhaustion right here. The archer continued to talk about how that predator turned into this tumor after Xiaoji invaded his intellect, and she wondered what he would turn into next time. The queen said that she would go and check what was happening inside and leave these chains here for protection. And as for the archer, if she survives, the queen recognizes her strength and as a partner. The archer sighed heavily and thought that this demon was as stubborn as his master. Looking at the approaching monsters, the archer asked if they, together with their demon, could hold back this wave. However, without waiting for an answer, she immediately loaded 3 arrows and said that now only they remained, so they must not miss them. Ji Yu Chuan, meanwhile, was in the true words and continued to fight with the thoughts that this monster is too fast. Because of this, Ji Yuchuan cannot predict its movements and where it will attack from next time. After a few more minutes, Ji Yuchuan was already lying on the ground, exhausted. And the predator in his true form said that his body still did not understand his feelings at all, and he needed to try again. Afterwards, he tried to finish off Xiaoji, but the queen stabbed him with her chains. Looking at her owner, the queen called him useless trash and said that she had saved his life again. Ji Yuchuan said with a smile that they still need to fulfill their promises to each other, so she can't just watch him die. After this, Ji Yuchuan raised his hand and found that he could finally contact the Dreamweaver again. He turned to him and asked him what happened earlier and why he could not deactivate the true word space. The Dreamweaver explained that true words only affect those whose mental strength is weaker than that of the owner. But the mental strength of this predator consists of two parts, and when the fragile shell was broken, the powerful core began to corrode the space of the true words, and the mental strength of this predator consists of a mixture of many types of, but the core is one pure force. Ji Yuchuan listened to all this and said that it is no wonder that this place seemed so strange to him. After this, Ji Yuchuan concluded that his mental shell consists of the people he absorbed, and the core is a predator named An. Ji Yuchuan thought that a non-polluted child is the best object for cultivation, and the creature he met in his memory must be a demon, but he does not understand why he would cultivate such a pure predator. While Ji Yuchuan was thinking about this, the predator had already recovered and immediately appeared in front of his face with the words that it was painful and those who cause pain must die. However, the queen immediately covered her master with her body. Ji Yuchuan took her hands, and the queen quietly asked him to deactivate the space. After that, she disappeared and Ji Yuchuan regained his strength and deactivated the true words. Returning back, he saw that the archer was already fighting off the monsters with all her strength. And a second later, he immediately killed them all with one use of the skill. After that, he apologized for waking up too late and also added that the queen asked him to convey to her the words that she recognizes the archer. The archer was a little embarrassed and thought that it looked as if this guy had become many times stronger, and he was even somewhat similar to her previous owner. Looking at the tumor, Ji Yuchuan said that this was all that was left of that vile thing. Ji Yuchuan looked at this and thought that at the moment of awakening, the Dreamweaver absorbed the mental power of this monster, and Ji Yuchuan never expected that his abilities would evolve based on this power. And the injuries that he and the queen received in the true words were also healed after awakening. A couple of seconds later, the womb collapsed and a small demon fell out of it and immediately began to run away. He was very fast and Ji Yuchuan shouted that he would deal with this, ordering the archer to start communicating with the others. Little Predator ran away and thought that all the energy he had collected had been absorbed by Xiao Ji, and now he would really die. So he must escape from here at any cost. However, while he was running away, he suddenly came across an unknown demon who kicked him. After this, the unknown person called this child naughty, and the little predator began to cry, saying that he was wrong. And he also said that he had already absorbed 5 million people and was actually very obedient. However, immediately after these words, the topic crushed this predator and said that most of all, he hates liars. After that, he took out his core with the thought that they had agreed on as many as 5 million people and were still missing 2. Putting this core in his pocket, he noticed that Ji Yuchuan and the Demon Queen were standing here. He said that if they met here, they could at least say hello. The unknown person also said that they had not seen the queen for a long time. Ji Yuchuan looked at the unknown person with thoughts that this was the same guy he saw in the predator's memory. Looking at his demon, Ji Yuchuan asked if this was her old acquaintance, to which the queen replied that it was so. She also added that she only respects the mighty of this world and does not recognize such a vile demon as this man in front of them. The unknown took out a handkerchief to wipe his mouth, or the place where it should be, and said that one should not call him vile. After all, it really hurts his heart and his methods do not compare with the queen's methods. Raising his hand up, the unknown person said that Ji Yuchuan had become an ally of the queen, only going to an eternal disastrous legacy. After that, the unknown demon extended his hand and said that Ji Yuchuan could join him and escape from this terrible queen. Ji Yuchuan pointed his finger at him and said that his performance was too exaggerated, and it seems that every demon who knows the queen wants to kill her, and her popularity in hell is probably just off the charts. The queen. After such a subtle joke, she got angry and ordered her master to shut up and unknown and said that she didn't like being ignored. Immediately after that, he found himself behind our hero and, raising his hand, said that he would finish them both off now. After that, he grabbed the guy by the head and hit the ground with all his might. Calling the guy a stupid man, he added that Ji Yuchuan could have died painlessly. However, he chose the hard way. But a second later they noticed that instead of this man's head, he was holding only air, and his hands were wrapped in spiritual threads. Ji Yuchuan appeared behind the unknown demon, who swung his scythe and shouted that if this demon looks down on people, then he better just leave this place while he is still alive. Immediately after these words, Ji Yuchuan swung his scythe and cut the demon's body into two pieces. However, the unknown demon turned into 100 butterflies and flew away to a safe distance. After that, he opened his strange book and said that in this case he is forced to join the fun. The book in his hands is called The Demonic Code of the Evil Eye and records all the attacks seen by the Evil Eye demon. But the source of the attack power will still be the demon's own power. After this, the unknown demon directed his attack at our hero. However, Ji Yuchuan defended himself from it by creating a shield. Looking displeased at all this, Ji Yuchuan said that he was already tired of these annoying demons. After that, he fought off another attack and shouted that he did not have time for so much entertainment. With these words, he rushed forward in a frontal attack on the demon. The man vaporized his book and said that there is nothing surprising in this because, being a follower of the queen, this guy is by definition violent. Ji Yuchuan tried to attack this demon again, but he recreated a protective barrier. And after that, he turned him into dynamite, saying that he was as annoying as she was. Immediately after this, an explosion occurred and our hero was thrown back several tens of meters. Immediately after this, the demon took out his saber and said that there was nothing difficult in this battle. Rushing into the attack, the demon said that he would be the one who would put an end to our hero and his demon. But then the queen appeared and said that she would never give up her loved ones under attack. She protected her master by creating a protective field. The unknown demon immediately walked away and noticed that new people began to approach. He said that he was disappointed that they would have to postpone this duel. Ji Yuchuan looked back and saw the director and a blonde man standing in front of them. The rest of the squad was also there, and the demon looked at it all with displeasure and asked, "Are they really trying to drive him into a corner?" Having looked, the demon saw that Punk was there, who swung his wooden blade and shouted that the newcomer should rejoice because his savior had arrived. But the unknown demon immediately took out his book, and time around seemed to stop. Everyone froze and could not even say a word. The director tried to use teleportation magic because she thought that this guy was too strong and she had to lead her squad out of this hell. Looking up where he said that time was almost up because today was a rare full moon. Then he bowed and said goodbye and said that they would see each other again someday. Dissolved in butterflies, he disappeared. Everyone was able to move again, and the director coughed up blood. The blonde immediately asked her what happened to her, to which she replied that she intended to use spatial abilities to forcibly evacuate everyone. But the instant freezing was unbearable for her body. Looking at the moon, Ji Yuchuan said that this demon did not even intend to kill them. But inside he thought that from the moment they fought, this guy did not show a hint of murderous intentions, and this is not a very good sign. The younger brother looked at the queen and said that our hero's demon was behaving very strangely. Meanwhile, the angry queen walked back and forth and raged, saying that they had to find and kill this dirty demon. After that, she seemed to go crazy and used her chains to destroy nearby houses. Ji Yuchuan looked at all this and said that something was clearly wrong with her, because she usually doesn't go crazy. After that, Ji Yuchuan suddenly shouted at the table. This demon must have done something to the queen. The head mistress immediately walked up to this person and asked him to take out his contract agreement to calm down his demon. Ji Yuchuan looked at the director and asked, "What is this all about?" However, he immediately turned around and said that someone had already followed his demon and was definitely trying to attack her. Therefore, he did not have time for this. Looking at all this, the blonde said that the fact that this guy does not know about the contract agreement will be problematic. The queen still continued to rage and go crazy, saying that she was going to kill this dirty demon. Meanwhile, Punk attacked her and shouted that the crazy woman would have to pay for the damage to public property with her blood. However, the queen waved her hand just once and immediately dealt him critical damage. After that, the younger one used his demon, saying that the queen did not dare touch his older brother. An attack was launched on the queen, but Ji Yuchuan defended her. The younger brother looked at this guy in surprise and asked if he was going to protect the woman after she went crazy. To which Ji Yuchuan replied that what was happening to his demon did not give him the right to judge. However, looking back, he noticed that the mad queen had raised her hand and was now going to attack her master. He immediately protected himself with a barrier and asked her to come to her senses immediately. However, the queen shouted that no one dared to order her. Immediately after this, she destroyed the owner's protective barrier with another blow, after which he flew several meters away. Having risen, he thought that he could no longer suppress her mental strength, and also did not understand why her strength had increased so much. The archer looked at the hero and said that his demon was out of control and he alone could not control her, to which Ji Yuchuan said that she should get out of here if she is afraid. Summoning his spiritual threads, Ji Yuchuan said that they are connected with the power of cosmic rules, and in the worst case, he can exhaust her so that she cannot fight, and this is his demon, so he will make her wake up. After that, Ji Yuchuan used his true words, and a monster appeared above the queen. The woman looked up and said that anyone who gets in her way will be killed. The rest, meanwhile, watched this whole battle and said that it was becoming too dangerous here, and they needed to get everyone else out of here. The director appeared and said that she had already taken the rest of the squad back. The director also said that now she would transfer them all because everyone had already reached the limit, and by continuing in this spirit and not only harming themselves, inside the director was thinking that Ji Yuchuan had actually received incredible strength. Meanwhile, Ji Yuchuan used true words to force his demon to awaken. The mouth opened even more over her, and a ball formed around them. The queen found herself in hell and was pursued by huge demons. She ran away from them and did not understand why this was happening to her. Suddenly, one of the demons swung his axe and cut off her head. She died with tears in her eyes. However, after a couple of seconds, her consciousness returned. Looking back, she noticed that she was lying on the floor and her head and body were reunited again. The queen was glad that she was still alive and began to rise to her feet. However, there was a demon standing behind her, who again swung his axe to cut off her head, and this continued over and over again. And the very demon with whom she had just fought was responsible for all this. He drank her blood and said that each of her next resurrection brings them stronger power. And each time the cycle begins again. And all the demons in hell worship the queen and drink her blood. An unknown demon stood over her, who said that Lady Chelsea is a poor soul because she was chosen as a victim, and her existence consists of providing the rest of the demons with an endless supply of her blood. The queen looked up and thought that she was destined to die endlessly in constant agony, so she just wanted to finally end it all. However, this time, Ji Yuchuan suddenly appeared and protected her from beheading. Looking at the queen, he was glad that he made it on time and noticed that she was really in bad condition. Meanwhile, the unknown demon was in his castle. He leafed through his book out of sadness, thinking that Chelsea's fate had been rewritten. And it's a huge pity, but next time she won't be so lucky. Looking at the coffin in front of him, he thought that in order to call the demon he wanted, he needed to collect millions of souls. After that, he took out the crystal in which the souls were imprisoned and pointed it at the coffin, shouting that it was time for the demon to wake up. A few minutes later, the coffin opened. Inside, there was a man with white hair. An unknown demon said that the master needed help from his servant. Mordak heard the master's words and began to slowly open his eyes. It was a 6th-rank demon. Meanwhile, Ji Yuchuan continued to defend Chelsea. The girl looked at this guy in surprise and asked who he was, and did he really want to kill her too? Looking at this, Ji Yuchuan remembered something from his childhood. He, like her, lay on the operating table, and now he saw himself in front of him. However, after that he smiled warmly and said that he and the queen were allies, and he was not going to kill her. Meanwhile, the demon swung his axe and tried to finish off the man. However, he dodged. Ji Yuchuan destroyed this demon and shouted that if the queen does not wake up, then it will be really very bad for them. He used his spiritual threads on her to penetrate her mind. However, the queen said that it doesn't matter that they are allies because she just wants to end this whole cycle of suffering once and for all. Ji Yuchuan wanted to answer something, but he was interrupted by a huge demon who said that the Demon King must be reborn endlessly, and whoever interferes with the ritual must be punished. After that, the demon hit with all his might his huge axe at the place where Chelsea was. However, Ji Yuchuan lost his hand and managed to save her from this blow. He was bleeding, and looking into the eyes of the queen, he said that it had been some time since he was seriously injured in true trials. Therefore, this time, the queen owes him a lot. The woman, meanwhile, looked at her hero and asked why he decided to save her. Inside, she was thinking that she should already be dead and they should all be celebrating her death. With tears in her eyes, the demon queen said that she is the source of all evil in this world. However, Ji Yuchuan asked her to stop crying and shouted that if she did not stop, they would both be in danger. He approached her closely and declared that they should no longer remain in this terrible world. Suddenly, the queen remembered who was standing in front of her, and their energy immediately merged into one. The queen laughed and said that Ji Yuchuan was talking nonsense because she was the most powerful demoness, and of course she would never fall into such a low-level illusion. Meanwhile, the director and the rest of the squad were in a safe place and healing their wounds. The director said that even standing here, she can feel the waves of mental energy around them, and Ji Yuchuan is indeed very powerful like Epter. She also thought that with such exceptional talents, Ji Yuchuan can even reach the level of SSS. And as soon as she thought about this, Ji Yuchuan appeared in front of her along with his demon. Ji Yuchuan said that they could have come here on foot, to which the queen replied that she did not want to hesitate as a person, and she did our hero a favor by bringing him here, and he did not even thank her. After that, the queen took him by the hand, pulled him closer to her, and kissed him. Looking at the blonde, she asked what he was staring at, because this is the highest politeness among demons, and it doesn't mean anything, to which the blonde said that he had simply never seen such a thing before. The director approached his demon guy and said that everything is fine. But now is not the time to relax because the apartment has sent them new information, and the demon in which they encountered is not a ranked demon, and has been hiding on Earth even before the Red Rain disaster. And also the appearance of this demon is not an accident, and he definitely has some kind of ulterior motive. He thought about it and said that this demon allowed the predator to eat people in the city, and therefore he was definitely trying to achieve something by sacrificing so many souls. The queen said it was a typical resurrection. The director looked at her in surprise and asked what the woman was talking about, to which the queen replied that in order to resurrect a powerful demon, a huge sacrifice of souls is needed, and perhaps he uses these souls to resurrect other demons. The archer shouted that that demon claimed that the predator had already eaten more than 4 million souls, and if this is true, then this unknown person will try to resurrect someone who will be very difficult to deal with. The blonde man put on his glasses and said that Ji Yuchuan still has not mastered the bonds of the treaty, and if they encounter this demon again, his comrades may go against him. Ji Yuchuan looked at his partner and asked, "What the bonds of the treaty mean?" The director said that the blonde had correctly noticed, so she decided to divide the team into two groups, and she, along with the others, would remain here to deal with the consequences in this city. And the blonde would take Ji to study the bonds of fate from one great teacher. 3 days later, they headed to the slums of the city together. Ji Yuchuan looked around and said that they are now in the main capital of people. So why is there such a place here? To which the blonde said that it is because not everyone has the means to live in the central areas. He also added that the technological tree in the city forms 3-layer protective shields, and this is the civil district at the external level, and the people living here are called signalmen. The demon queen asked why they were called that, to which Ji Yuchuan replied that it was probably because if there was an attack on the city, the residents of the civil district could not only warn the others, but also gain time. So those who at the top like to call citizens signalers, the queen listened to all this and said that people are no different from demons. However, after that, the queen looked at the blonde and asked, "Are they really going to learn the bonds of the contract from a guy from the slums?" To which the blonde replied that the teacher is not a signalman at all, and he simply does not agree with the practices of those who live inside. They finally arrived and stood near the door to apartment number 502. The blonde said that the teacher lives here. Feeling some mental fluctuations, the blonde said that the teacher was calling them inside. Therefore, if they are late, there will be problems. The queen looked at him in surprise and asked, "What is he talking about?" However, suddenly the apartment door opened and tentacles appeared from there and grabbed our hero and his demon. Immediately after this, the tentacles dragged him inside this apartment, leaving him with only one boot. The blonde was relieved and exhaled and thought that the teacher's goal was only they, so he could relax. However, after a second, he realized with horror that he was also invited inside. Meanwhile, the rest of the detachment was in the destroyed city at the quarry. The archer looked at the director and said that this is an unauthorized quarry using prisoners from this city as labor without the permission of the Alliance. And it seems that this is a covert operation that has been going on for a very long time. The director picked up one of the stones and asked, "What about the survivors from the prison?" To which the archer replied that they were all saved. The director looked at the stone in her hands and thought that this was not just illegal mining for profit, but it looked like there were actually traitors in the Alliance. The director looked at her assistant and said that she must make sure that the survivor is protected because perhaps they are important witnesses. The girl with pink hair said that she understood everything and will now carry out the order. The director also turned around and added that the archer must collect all the information that they currently possess and report it to the president. Meanwhile, Ji Yuchuan and the blonde were sitting inside the teacher's apartment. The blonde looked at the girl who looked like a hiccup and asked her next time not to use those dirty tricks during training, to which she replied that she didn't even try. Also, the little girl said that her grandfather said that in battle, you should always choose the enemy's weak points. Men have a lot of weak points. The blonde looked at her and shouted that such a sweet girl like her should not learn from this strange old man. However, immediately after this, tentacles appeared from another room and tried to attack the blonde, saying that he was a little impudent and did not dare to insult him. The guy covered himself with a protective barrier and said that the teacher had better not be distracted because Ji Yuchuan and his demon are not so simple. The teacher meditated with a cigarette in his mouth and thought that the blonde was getting stronger every day, and soon he would be able to surpass even his teacher. After that, the teacher smiled and said that he heard that Ji Yuchuan has a high level of energy. Therefore, the old man hopes that he and his demon will be able to hold out a little longer because this will make this boring life much more interesting. Meanwhile, our heroes were in some strange space and were tied with chains. Ji Yuchuan thought that this is a special space where abilities cannot be used, and this is just cheating and dishonest. Because all his strength is in mental abilities, the queen, meanwhile, stood behind him and asked what was ahead and why did he stop. Ji Yuchuan told her not to tense up, and the box simply appeared in front of them again. It was written on it that you need to come and open it. Half an hour ago, Ji Yuchuan and the queen entered this labyrinth, where there was a sign that the old man would be waiting for them deep inside the labyrinth. And it was also written that the labyrinth was filled with surprise boxes that he had prepared to help them pass it faster. They walked through this labyrinth and the queen kept complaining that it was very annoying, and Ji Yuchuan said that they had no other choice, and they had to go step by step to find this old man. Having walked some way, they found themselves in a room where there was one of the surprise boxes mentioned on the sign at the entrance. The queen approached her and said that the box looked quite ordinary. However, Ji Yuchuan asked her to wait and added that perhaps it was a trap. The queen looked at her master and said that she didn't care that it was a trap. After all, if they were careful all the time, they would never get out of here. After that, the queen opened the box and noticed that there was a strange card inside. Immediately after this, the box exploded, and the queen immediately began to say that she was blind and could not see anything at all. Two little clowns appeared in front of her and congratulated her on finding and opening a box with a debuff. And they also added that there were 20 boxes hidden in this maze, of which 15 were with debuffs. One of the clowns laughed and said that the first one who collects 10 cards with debuffs will remain forever in this maze, along with the rest of the clowns, and will help others. And the second clown said that if they don't find the only key that is in one of the 20 boxes, they can go through the maze and leave them behind. One of the clowns began to run away and say that you want them to stay, and the second shouted that they should find out something and leave as soon as possible. The queen lost her sight and asked her master what they should do now. To which Ji Yuchuan said that they should open the plugs, but she must do it herself. The queen looked at her master with her blinded eyes. However, she immediately realized that she could only rely on hearing. After that, she asked, "Is he really going to weaken the queen?" To which Ji Yuchuan replied that he meant that they still don't know what dangers are waiting here. Since she has already received damage, they need to at least provide one of them while maintaining full combat strength. He also added that, within the permissible limits, it would be the best option to find the key as quickly as possible. But if it doesn't work out, the next one will open the remaining boxes, minimizing the risks. Ji Yuchuan also said that if their roles were reversed, he would have made the same choice. The queen listened to all this. After that, she approached him and used her demonic church to make them connect their bodies with each other. She said that no matter what happens, her master must ensure the safety of his queen. Looking at his demon, Ji Yuchuan said that she can be completely sure of this. After that, they headed further through the labyrinth and the queen opened 8 more boxes with debuffs. In the end, she said that her owner was just a disgusting person and did not understand how he could play with her like that. After that, she became even more angry and said that all the boxes here are bad and this teacher was never going to let them go from here. Meanwhile, Ji Yuchuan was thinking that the demon had already opened 9 boxes, so he couldn't allow her to open the next ones. Approaching the next box, he opened it and found that inside there was a small blade and some kind of note. After reading the note, he learned that in the labyrinth of souls where abilities and contracts do not work, his demon can kill him at any moment. If he wants, therefore, this dagger must ensure the safety of the owner. The queen asked why her master was silent and what he found there, to which Ji Yuchuan briefly replied that there was a dagger. The queen got angry and said that, as expected, this teacher is playing with them, and they should continue moving because perhaps there is another box ahead and he should hurry up and find the key so that they can finally leave this damn place. After a couple more minutes, they suddenly stopped and the queen asked, "Could the box really appear in front of them again?" Ji Yuchuan said that it was and discovered that inside there was some kind of cloak, a key, and a note to it. The note said that the teacher congratulates you on finding the key, and it was also mentioned that the owner should not forget to take the power of the fog with him and wander freely like the fog to leave those who pull him back behind. And remember that there is only one winner, it was also written there, that the only option is to take the cloak along with the key and not tell your partner about it, because this way, he will become the absolute winner. The queen asked her owner what was in the box and noticed that he was not answering her, I thought for a while. She asked if there was a debuff that prevented him from speaking. After being silent for a couple more seconds, Ji Yuchuan said that this is the key and they finally found it. The queen immediately approached her master and said that in this case they should quickly get out of this damn place. Clowns appeared immediately in front of them and congratulated our heroes on finding the key and successfully completing the maze. They also laughed and said that they had been deceived, and the next stage will begin soon. Ji Yuchuan took the cloak, and the clown said that now they will play truth or dare. The teacher scratched his beard and smiled and said that finally the show was starting and now it would become even more interesting. And he said that now they will draw cards, and as long as they answer honestly, he will remove all the debuffs one by one, but if they lie, something terrible will happen. The queen said that she had nothing to hide, so he should quickly ask his questions and restore her vision. The clown laughed and asked his first question, "Does the queen want to take over her master's body?" The queen immediately replied that she had wanted to do so before, but now he is her blood, so naturally she will protect him. The clown said that this was incredible sincerity and affection, and this touched his party. Meanwhile, the queen folded her hands at her sides and said that he should quickly remove all the negative effects from her. However, the clown looked at the guy with a smile and said that the queen was too impatient because her partner still had not answered his question. Ji Yuchuan looked at him and ordered him to quickly complete the drawing of the cards. Ji Yuchuan took one of the cards and the clown asked if the owner lied to his demon after entering the labyrinth. Ji Yuchuan picked up this card and said that according to the principles of communication, he did not lie. Where he looked at this guy in surprise and asked what the principle of communication was, and the queen asked, "Is this really some kind of human law?" Ji Yuchuan said that he would now give an example and explained that if he has 7 candies in his bag and the queen asks him how many they actually are, then he can say that he has 1 or 2 candies and that would be correct. Raising his hand, Ji Yuchuan continued to explain and say that this is called the principles of communication, because keeping some things to yourself is not quite the same as lying. The clown changed it a little and said that Ji Yuchuan is pleased with the cunning and he is sorry. After that, he took another card and said that in the end, the heroes themselves judge each other, after which he removed the insult debuff. The queen was delighted that she was finally seeing, but the clone began to say that her partner clearly had a few tricks up his sleeve, and his little secrets were the items that he hid from her while she was blinded, looking at the queen. He asked her if she was saying goodbye to this action. The queen read the cards that only Ji Yuchuan had seen before and found out that here she could kill him, and also that he had hidden the cloak of fog, and Ji Yuchuan thought that it was precisely because of her stubborn nature that he did not want to talk about it. Ji Yuchuan approached her and began to say that she could not see at that time and was weakened. "So I knew you that the contract was not valid. She could have done something stupid." But the queen briefly replied that she did not want to talk about it anymore, because now their priority the task is to get out of here. After that, the queen looked at the clown and said that she decided that her partner was not lying, so they should complete this level. The clown laughed and said that a lady of outstanding grace was in front of him, so he was glad to help. With a snap of his fingers, the clown removed all other weaknesses. After that, he threw the cards up and shouted congratulations to both of them for successfully completing the level. After that, 3 doors appeared in front of them. The word life was written on all of them. And the clown explained that there is only one real door in life and which one is real depends on their wisdom. The queen used her instincts and said that she did not feel anything and all the doors were completely identical. Ji Yuchuan said that all these doors looked the same from the outside and perhaps the real danger was hidden behind one of them. The queen began to walk forward and said that each of them could choose their own door and the best one would win. But Ji Yuchuan immediately asked her to stop. But the queen had already entered the door. Ji Yuchuan remembered the teachers and thought that this is really impressive because he can defeat someone without using force. And they fell into a trap already at the first level, and the designer expected him to hide things to avoid trouble. And this is exactly what became a minefield for them with a demon. Opening one of the doors, Ji Yuchuan thought that he and his demon really didn't understand each other well as partners. Meanwhile, the queen was walking down the corridor and the clowns in the shadows told her that they had already warned her that the only one she could trust was herself. and a lie meant that her partner did not trust her. But on the other hand, she really trusted him and no one could understand her. And no one knows what she really is because in fact she is just a terrible demon. A demon exploited by other demons. However, the queen, after listening to all this, ordered them to shut up and not interfere with progress. Suddenly, someone attacked her from behind and she immediately fought back with her weapon. But she froze for a couple of seconds because she saw that these were the true words of her partner. Having cut this demon, the girl thought that she again saw the same ability as her owner. And the designer of this test really knows how to anger a person. Ji Yuchuan suddenly began to emerge from the severed demon. He said that she should not be so impatient because perhaps her partner was thinking the same thing right now. After that, he smiled and said that it was a slave to see her on the third level. At times, the director was at the Alliance headquarters. She approached the president of the Alliance and said that they owe the successful resolution of the crisis in the fallen city to a newcomer from the demonic team named Ji Yuchuan. So she hopes that they can officially accept him into the wrath of heaven. The president looked at his resume. After that, he folded his hands and said that this guy had done a lot of things behind the scenes under the guise of the Esper Control Center. So he doubted that they could trust him completely. The director said that their interests coincide at the moment, and he is not so stupid as to break off a mutually beneficial partnership for the sake of some petty gain. Therefore, if they use him correctly, then she is sure that he will become their sharpest weapon. However, after this, the president said that according to rumors, his demon was out of control, to which the director replied that she organized training for him with the best teacher so that he would master the bonds of the contract in the future. Hearing this, the president laughed and said that this now looks quite interesting. Meanwhile, Ji Yuchuan was fighting with a copy of his partner. He thought that in order to pass this stage, he needs to defeat a copy of his partner while his powers are suppressed, and all he has are the objects that he got from the labyrinth. And it was all really a setup. He now had a cloak of fog that hides the presence of the owner and provides an 80% reduction in damage. And he also had a cursed dagger, one hit of which leads to instant death regardless of the strength of the enemy. Unexpectedly, the column behind which Ji Yuchuan stood collapsed due to the replicant Chelsea, who shouted that she had finally found her partner. Ji Yuchuan immediately started to run. However, the queen laughed and shouted that he would not succeed. Immediately after these words, Ji Yuchuan stood behind her and said that he had not even thought about running away. Immediately after these words, he instantly plunged his blade into her back. After that, he said that everything turned out as he had planned. After all, everyone else thought that he had already reached the limit. However, they did not even suspect that this was the moment that he had been waiting for all this time. Looking at the dying replicant, he said that he had won. After that, the wall behind him began to collapse. The real queen came out of her and said that she thought that she would now clean the remains of her master from the floor because she never thought that he would really be able to defeat that replicant. Ji Yuchuan said that he was probably just lucky and added that she now had to treat her wounds herself. To which the queen replied that she did not want empty chatter because he himself was not in the best condition right now. She remembered the battle with her master's replicant and thought that it took her forever to find a vulnerability. After all, this guy is too careful. They approached each other, but suddenly the space began to collapse. The heroes looked at each other in fear. And suddenly, a teacher appeared who said that these two were really little pranksters who knew how to wreak havoc. Raising his hand, he said that the two of them had so spoiled his beautiful soul space that even his soul demon could not hold them together. After that, he used his aura, and Ji Yuchuan was surprised to find that the destruction had stopped. The old man lit a cigarette and congratulated them both on overcoming the labyrinth of souls. Raising his finger up, he said that now the two of them had to learn the first requirements for establishing contractual bonds. Ji Yuchuan and his demon simultaneously said that this is trust in each other. The teacher laughed and called them well done, saying that now they can move on to the next stage. A huge clown appeared, in whose hands there was energy, and the teacher said that they must summon those immersed in this whirlpool of demonic energy within 10 minutes, and then their contractual bonds will finally be fully formed. Ji Yuchuan immediately became happy and began to go there with full confidence, saying that this is what they came here for. After that, the clown shouted that now they will see what these two are capable of, and he shot this energy at them. The teacher took a drag on his cigarette and then exhaled smoke and said that it seemed like the time for waiting had come again. However, suddenly a queen flew past him in the form of a small animal. Looking at this, teacher asked if they had failed, and Ji Yuchuan immediately appeared. However, after that, he looked at Ji and wondered what was the matter, Because if putting these two together with all their ulterior motives as if they could ever truly trust each other, then it was a stupid idea. Throwing away the cigarette, he looked at Ji, who seemed to be mixed with a demon, and said that it was time for the old man to teach his students a lesson. Ji Yu Chuan began to laugh quietly. The old man noticed that incredibly strong mental energy emanated from him. And looking at the demon queen, this brat was actually able to absorb all of her demonic energy. Meanwhile, Ji Yu Chuan attacked the teacher. However, the old man was able to defend himself from this blow by shooting his hand to block. After that, he struck back, saying that sneaking up on an old man is not very polite. Ji Yu Chuan flew back a little, but immediately summoned his demonic scythe. And hitting the ground, he created an ice spell to freeze the old man. However, the old man possessed the primordial chaos of 12 forms. This man's self-created martial art combining the 5 elements and 8 trigrams with raw mental energy. After that, he created an incredible barrier, and he said that the readers don't know whether this guy is a genius or a monster. But it's still time for the old man to warm up a little and teach the annoying student a lesson. Meanwhile, the blonde man and the old man's granddaughter were in the store and were already returning home. The blonde man said that they still had not received any news from the master, so the little girl could make a prediction for the hero and his demon. The little girl waved her hand and threw a few fortune sticks, saying that it would not be a problem for her. Looking at one of them, she said that swimming in a serene blue pond, the fish does not notice that the net is approaching from all sides. The blonde said that this is just a terrible prediction, and it looks like the master is going to give the hero a real lesson. To which the little girl replied that maybe the master has been absent for so long because this newcomer is more difficult than they thought. The blonde said that in any case, the Labyrinth of Souls was just an appetizer, and the true power of a master is bone-breaking martial art, and that's what's truly terrible when you learn from him. Meanwhile, the old man was clearly winning this fight and said that the hero's impatience in his game would cost him dearly. However, Ji Yu Chuan caught his hand, and demonic chains were torn out of the ground. After looking at this, the old man said that all this would work out well, but after all, Ji Yu Chuan is just a beginner. Therefore, the old man immediately got out of the grip and rose into the air to evade all these demonic chains. And a mark appeared under the hero's feet, which immediately shocked him the moment the old man walked away from him. After warming up, the old man said that children these days are acting completely crazy. Looking at the fact that Ji Yu Chuan fell unconscious, the old man said that he was very sorry that this happened, and it looked like he would have to teach these two another time. Looking at the queen, he thought that this is new to him, because they are so distrustful of each other. But everyone is connected from behind like a demon and contracture, so he is afraid that these contractual bonds will not stand. Meanwhile, an unknown demon stood in front of a man who was holding a red ball in his hands. The man asked why the face's power had not yet been fully restored. Were there really not enough sacrifices? To which the unknown replied that his subordinate was to blame for everything. Therefore, the unknown demon is awaiting his punishment from owner. The demon rose from his throne and immediately struck the unknown demon with his strength and saying that he had been serving him for thousands of years. The unknown fell to his knees in pain. The demon said that he heard that they saw each other with the Queen of Demons. Therefore, he is interested in knowing how she feels. The unknown, overcoming incredible pain, said that she entered into a contract with a weak person and her strength is only a tenth from the previous one. Meanwhile, the Lord of the Unknown Demon said that he forgives him for his failure in the city, but this time he should not disappoint him again. After these words, he removed his energy from the unknown demon, and the demon thanked his master for his mercy. After that, the owner turned around and said that the unknown person should send a face to her to move on to the next stage of their plan. Meanwhile, the owner of the unknown turned around, and she looked exactly like Chelsea, one box she had. On the other side, the woman said that she couldn't wait to see the look on her face when they meet again. Ji Yu Chuan, along with his demon, had already returned to the base of Heaven's Wrath. There, he spoke via video call with a blonde man who told him that Ji Yu Chuan would be cursed with weakening after visiting the teacher's spiritual space, so he should be careful outside. Ji Yu Chuan thought angrily that this blonde was telling him such important information after 3 whole days, and he definitely did it on purpose. He also remembered how 3 days ago he walked here and reasoned that, as he suspected, the underground demon research laboratory is protected by the highest level of security, and it looks like he will need a new plan to find out the connection between the Wrath of Heaven and the Blaze organization. While he was walking, he suddenly saw the Queen, who said that the other demons from this demonic team had no chance against her. They collided with each other and the Queen dropped her ice cream. She immediately began to say that because of the owner, she lost her super strawberry ice cream. Ji Yu Chuan was covered in ice cream and looking at his demon. He asked, "Did she really do this on purpose?" The queen laughed and said that she would never do such a thing in her life. After that, she returned to her usual face and said that she wanted to clean up the trash. She directed an ice spell at her master and immediately said that it was very strange because she wanted to use water spells to help him cleanse himself. But Ji Yu Chuan covered himself from the ice and said that she was clearly doing this on purpose. After a couple of seconds, Ji Yu Chuan was frozen, and the girl said that now she could warm him up a little. Ji Yu Chuan said goodbye to her, saying that he did not need help from her, and headed to Chihaya's bathhouse along the way. He thought that he was very cold, and perhaps a warm bath would help bring him back into shape. However, Ji Yu Chuan didn't know that the men's bath was on the other side, so he began to enter the women's bath. The archer and the director were sitting inside. The archer asked the director why she came to the bath so late, to which the director replied that there had been so much going on lately that she now just needed to relax a little, and besides, if there were a lot of people here, they would be embarrassed. After that, the director completely immersed herself and said that it was just an amazing feeling, and the hot spring here was incredibly special. The archer said that they should take the others here too. Tomorrow, everyone needs a rest because they are working hard. The archer plunged a little deeper and said that the teacher's next lesson would be interesting, or Ji Yu Chuan and his demon. The director smiled and said that the little archer should not worry about this guy, to which the girl immediately began to deny and say that she was not worried about him, and was just worried because he could suddenly slow down everyone in the bathroom. Suddenly they heard a splash and screamed in fear. The director immediately asked what was going on there, and the archer said that perhaps it was one of those creatures that she thought about that sometimes appear in the water and are called unclean things. The archer said that they probably need to go back. However, the director covered her with her body and asked her not to worry because it was probably just a towel that fell or something like that. Suddenly, Ji's head rose from the water. Hungry for such air? He said that his stay underwater is now much worse than before. However, after that he looked back and realized that he was now in the women's bath. He said that he could explain everything. But he was immediately called a pervert and kicked out of this bathroom. As punishment, the director forced him to work in the archive and said that now this is his new task and he does not dare to leave here until it is over. Another 2 days passed, and Ji Yu Chuan sadly thought that it took him 2 whole days to sort all these documents, and sorting documents is 10 times more difficult than in the control center where he previously worked. However, he also recalled that he never thought that he would come across something interesting in the document business. After all, he found out that some parts of the laboratory equipment were bought in Rose, and the dean is hiding in the church without a shadow, and it seems that Rose and Blaze are really closely connected, as he thought about it. However, now Ji Yu Chuan was thinking that this problem was for another time, and it's time for him to return to battle with the old man who is now attacking him. The old man almost struck, but Ji Yu Chuan at the last moment disappeared as if and used the teacher's technique. The old man looked at it in surprise and realized that this guy was copying his void step. After this, the old man laughed and said that probably everyone had known his technique for a long time. Ji Yu Chuan took out his spiritual threads and said that his Dreamweaver never forgets an Esper's energy imprint, so he surrendered it from the moment the old man entered the city. The old man laughed and said that Ji Yu Chuan is quite cunning and is not at all like his parents. Ji Yu Chuan looked at him in surprise and asked, "Does the old man really know his parents?" To which the teacher turned away and said that he would definitely tell about all this when he mastered the bonds of the contract. In the meantime, Ji Yu Chuan must summon his demon because someone is waiting for him in Training Hall B2. There was a punk there with his demon who I said that a gentleman would never keep a lady waiting and late men are just the worst. But her master asked her not to rush. After that, he called her into his blade and said that he already felt his presence right now and he would appear soon. As soon as Ji Yu Chuan entered, Punk immediately began to attack him, saying that when you talk about the devil, he will immediately appear. Ji Yu Chuan raised his battle scythe and said that now they will deal with this once and for all. A few seconds passed in the battle and the punk began to tease our hero, asking if this is all he is capable of. Laughing, he said that Ji Yu Chuan fights as if on an empty stomach. Ji Yu Chuan, meanwhile, was thinking that every time he wounds his opponent, his wounds are instantly healed, and this is probably the power of the immortal demon. Having defended himself from one of the blows, Ji Yu Chuan turned to his demon and said that this guy is much stronger than they previously thought. Therefore, they must join forces. After that, Ji Yu Chuan ran back and used his spiritual threads to tie up the punk. The enemy laughed and asked, "Is Ji Yu Chuan really trying to keep his distance and play a safe game?" The queen inside her master meanwhile told him that this guy is too dangerous and should not be underestimated. After that, the punk began to destroy spiritual threads and say that these espers consider everyone else idiots, and it just infuriates him. Having destroyed the wrong spiritual ones, he rushed at Ji and shouted that now he had nowhere to run. Therefore, he had better start begging for mercy. However, Ji Yuchuan laughed and used his hidden threads to immobilize this guy and said that now he has nowhere to run. The punk looked into the hero's eyes and said that he was a real freak, and Ji Yuchuan said in the meantime that he won. The queen inside the owner said that something was clearly wrong with this guy. But Ji Yuchuan asked her to calm down and said that now the Dreamweaver would be able to look into his mind. Meanwhile, the punk, in a fit of rage, literally went crazy and promised that he would kill our hero. However, Ji Yuchuan had already penetrated in his mind. He saw a small, fair-haired boy with tears in his eyes running from someone and shouting that he did not want to die. The director, meanwhile, approached the observation area and asked how the fight was going in the training room, to which the old man replied that it was already over. The director asked if the punk won, to which the old man briefly replied that this guy lost. Punk, meanwhile, was incredibly furious, and his demon begged him to come to his senses because this was just a regular training session. The director noticed this and shouted that this is not good because if this continues, his mind will simply break. However, the old man ordered her to stand still and said that if he does not face the shadows of his past, then he will never become stronger. And besides, Ji's talent and abilities are still also not fully revealed, so they should look a little more because finding this guy was the same as finding treasure. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, used true words and stayed in the Mindweaver to watch his opponent's memories. He found out that he grew up in the Bone Tribe in a warrior clan. In this memory, he fell on his butt during training, and his friends said that this guy is too weak, and with this level, he will never become a great warrior. After that, the man extended his hand and said that his aunt had prepared something delicious today, so he should come in the evening after training and eat with them. The punk, with a smile on her face, shook hands with this man and did not say that he would definitely come to his uncle. Everyone in this clan was blessed warriors from birth. But according to the rule of a strong tornado, it is no different from life. And family is always first and above everything else. Bonds sealed by blood and loyalty until death are the same principles that support the time of bones for many generations. But one day, a disaster befell them. A huge demon giant appeared, who was glad that he had found those same legendary warriors who were now rushing at him. The warriors shouted that there is nothing shameful about death because wars never give up, and the demon said with a smile that now he will have fun. A couple of minutes later, he exterminated the entire clan of warriors and said that it was as easy as crushing ants. Ji Yuchuan looked at his dead mother and couldn't believe his eyes. After that, he rushed to run and shouted that he had to run away because he did not want to die at the hands of the demon. However, while he was running away, he noticed that his younger brother, taking a small dagger in his hands, rushed at this demon, shouting that he was obliged to kill him. His younger brother swung his blade and said that the demon must answer for killing their mother. However, the demon immediately destroyed him with one blow in front of his older brother. After that, he raised the guy's head and showed it to his elder brother and said that these ants were running at him again and again. That day, this guy's psyche was shaken, and it left a very deep trauma on him. The punk could not stand all these memories and, through an effort of will, destroyed the spiritual threads, and then, swinging his blade, rushed at our hero, shouting that he would kill. However, Ji Yuchuan defended himself with his scythe. Suddenly, the queen appeared and looked at this guy's demon and reminded her that she was his contract demon and her master had lost control, so she had to do something. However, the demon said that it was not her fault, and it was Ji Yuchuan who ruined this guy's memories, and it was all their fault because the two of them couldn't even create proper contractual bonds, so they have no right to judge others. Punk, meanwhile, literally went crazy during the fight, and each of his moves was more furious. He continued to remember because of our hero, how he first met his demon, which I said that she sees in him the guilt, rage, and also anger rotting inside him, so they can make a contract. Then, after some time, he met the director who realized that he had entered into a contract with a demon. She asked him how many years he spent underground exterminating demons. Looking at him, the director said, "Who knows that he is the last survivor of that tribe?" And that day she invited him to join them. Punk joined this organization, and after a couple of years, the director brought a little boy to him, saying that this kid was saved during an operation and his former kidnappers took his eyes, so he needs someone to look after him for a while. The punk immediately extended a helping hand and introduced himself. He also added that from this day until his death, he will look after this little guy. But right now, with crazy eyes, He said that he had become strong enough so that no one could ever take away something that was dear to him. His body looked more and more like a monster, and he shouted that he would not deviate from his principles even if he had to become a demon. After that, his eyes began to fill with blood, and he rose into the air again so that she could rush at our hero and shouted that he would never retreat for anything in his life. However, Ji Yuchuan continued to fend off his blows with a calm face and said that this battle-crazed maniac should calm down. Taking advantage of the right moment, Ji Yuchuan used demonic chains to bind this guy. Stronger demons can repair weaker demons, rendering them immobile, and they can also temporarily harness some of the power of subordinate victims. Punk's demon immediately appeared, saying that he needed to be more careful. However, immediately after this, the teacher's tentacles appeared. He said that the fight was over and it was obvious that Ji Yuchuan had won. The queen, meanwhile, was dissatisfied and said that there was still no sign of the bonds of the contract and all their efforts were in vain. Ji Yuchuan looked at his opponent and asked if he was now satisfied with this fight. And his demon said that Ji Yuchuan was an ill-mannered scoundrel because the training was already over. After a couple of seconds of silence, the punk quietly said that his demon must return. After all, they lost. After that, he stood up and said that Ji Yuchuan is still a terrible person, and his opinion about him after this fight has not changed at all, and he does not like him. But now that he lost, he is no longer upset because his real goal is not Ji Yuchuan. Punk clenched his fist and said that he admits that he ran away from his tribe out of fear, and now he feels nothing but regret, and that sin he will carry with him for the rest of his life. However, now, he looks at all this differently, and the demon who took his loved ones from him will definitely pay for it with his blood. Ji Yuchuan extended his hand and said that they can do this together, and the punk must defeat him to prove to himself that he is not weak because the spirit of the Bone Tribe flows in his blood. The punk looked at this in surprise. However, he smiled and shook hands with our hero, saying that he was saying the right things and thanked him for the memory. Meanwhile, in one castle, representatives of the Alliance reported to headquarters that they had discovered a predator, but they had no chance against them, so he requested reinforcements. But while he was saying this, an unknown demon crushed his hand with his foot. It was the muzzle who asked if he was now communicating with the leader of this detachment. Mordak slowly approached and said that it would be part of this man to look into his face, because this would be the last thing he would see in his life. After that, the face changed his appearance to that of this guy and said that it was time for him to finally settle his score with the Demon Queen. That same night, Ji Yuchuan suddenly woke up due to the fact that the queen returned to her previous form in a dream, which made him feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, he noticed that there was a demonic aura in front of them. He used his spiritual threads to catch her. A voice was heard behind the door as someone grabbed the shadow. Opening his door, he asked what these two were doing here and why they were watching him. But the small member of the squad and the archer said that it was a surprise for him and then slammed the firecracker. Ji Yuchuan looked and asked what this all meant, and the archer replied that since the crisis in that city was successful, the director decided to hold a festive banquet and they are all waiting for our hero, and the punk will eat all the goodies if they are late, so they need to hurry up. The queen immediately stood up when she heard about the goodies and asked when they would go there. Half an hour later, they had already arrived at the banquet hall. The little boy communicated with his demon and said that he was probably already tired of eating the meat of predators all the time. Therefore, he should try to diversify his diet with human food. The director, meanwhile, was drinking alcohol in the sense that she had never had such a good drink for ages. And the guys had already drunk quite a lot of beer and other alcohol. The punk said that Ji Yuchuan really knows how to drink. Punk was the first to get drunk the most and said that Wu Ji Yuchuan is actually a real warrior. Although before that he thought that he was an ordinary liar, so he is sincerely grateful for the fact that he pulled him out of those memories. The blonde laughed and said that it turns out that someone is already under the driver. Ji Yuchuan looked at the blonde and asked why he didn't drink alcohol, to which the man replied that he liked milk more. However, Ji Yuchuan laughed and said that this was not enough and took a carton of milk and put it in a glass of whiskey. The blonde immediately began to say that Ji Yuchuan dare not go there for his milk. But Ji Yuchuan said with a smile that a little milk makes alcohol lighter. Bella, meanwhile, looked at the fact that her master was drunk and decided that she urgently needed to take care of him, and the queen asked her what a grill is. Suddenly, the director appeared and said that the demon queen needn't worry. After all, they could handle it because everyone here cooks pretty well. The archer stood next to her and said that the director clearly shouldn't drink anymore. After that, the director poured beer on the grill, and the queen immediately began to be indignant due to the fact that all her meat was burned. After a couple of minutes, she walked back disappointed. However, she was glad that she barely managed to save the remains of the meat. Looking at her owner, who was lying face down on the floor, She asked what he was doing here, and in fear asked if he had died, to which Ji Yuchuan quietly replied that he was not dead. The queen laughed and said that she did not expect that her master was the type who faints from a little fun. Ji Yuchuan began to get up and say that he just hadn't drunk for a long time. The queen looked down and said that she hoped that this was true, because entering into a contract with a fragile person like him should not be a mistake. She also said that she was wondering when they would finally form this thing called a contractual bond. Ji Yuchuan looked at her and began to tell her that on the day when they found themselves in demonic energy, he heard voices. He continued to say that I don't remember exactly what they said because everything was in chaos, and he could only think about how to expel them from his mind. The queen looked at him and asked if this was his way of apologizing to his demon for that day, to which he replied that everything was really not like that. He looked her straight in the eyes and said that he doubted that the first requirement for the restoration of contractual bonds could really exist between the two of them. The queen wanted to answer something. However, unexpectedly we heard the voice of an archer. Ji Yuchuan immediately stood up and asked what happened, and the girl replied that she always told the director not to drink anymore. However, the director did not listen to them. The director, meanwhile, boasted in the name of her skills and asked how they could not eat the meat that she specially prepared, heated it all up, and yes, this is a crime in her eyes. Because of this, she sends them straight to prison. One of the assistants ran into me and said that he had urgent news and this was an emergency because someone was attacking the Heavenly Wrath base. There was now a Mordak in human form who said that he was really a captain and his name was Mordak and he needed help from the mermaid. The girl was surprised that he knew who she was and asked if he really wanted her to do something because she was very timid. However, the face said that she should not worry about anything because when she overcomes her cowardice, people will be even more timid than her. After that, he looked at her with a smile and said that they should go together to leave this place. The director immediately returned to the base and asked if there was any evidence about who was inside about them. The assistants immediately began to say that they were still telling this situation, but there were no signs of hacking, and the main gate was opened in a safe mode. Ji Yuchuan said that if the gate was not damaged, then this was not considered an intrusion, and perhaps it was just a simple sabotage. One of the assistants said that he had found the burglar, and this was the captain of the Heaven's Wrath squad. Everyone was immediately surprised because they did not expect to find out that he would turn out to be a traitor. And the blonde said that every member of this organization undergoes a period and checks, so he could not be a demonic contractor working from the inside all this time. Punk took up his weapon and said that he absolutely doesn't care who this captain is, because he will tear this bastard to pieces. Ji Yuchuan, meanwhile, was thinking that it was possible that this guy himself was a demon and not a contractor. After that, the entire demonic squad descended into the demon incubation chambers. The archer looked around and said that these incubation chambers were made from a purified source of stone, reinforced with containment seals personally written by the president. So it was very strange that someone destroyed them so easily. The queen looked at her master and said that he felt a very familiar and dangerous aura, and perhaps today, they would have to face someone who was much worse than any subject they had encountered before. The younger one constantly shouted to find out where his older brother was, however, and the director ordered everyone to stop because the doors were open instead of where the sealed demons were kept. Upon entering, they saw that all the high-ranking guards who guarded this place had been killed. The archer immediately said that this was simply monstrous, so they couldn't let whoever did this just take it and leave. The little boy raised his eyes and said that his older brother was up there. Ji Yuchuan also looked up and saw that he was still alive. However, he was clearly not happy with the situation in which he found himself. He begged his demon to quickly get out of his body because her strength was weakening. However, the demon said that she could not do anything about it at all. The younger one immediately called on his demon and said that he would help now. However, Ji Yuchuan stopped him and asked him to wait and not release this demon for now. And as soon as the younger one summoned his demon, strange bonds immediately bound him and lifted him up. The director said that he does not understand what is happening and why all the demons that appear here are chained, to which Ji Yuchuan asked everyone to stay away from this and used his spiritual threads. Ji Yuchuan checked the area and said that it seems like my thinking left traps designed to subdue the demons, and there was residual mental energy left, so they could find something useful among this rubbish. The demon queen turned to her master and said that something was clearly wrong with the skull in the middle of the room. Ji Yuchuan looked at it and said that he also felt it very well since he came here. After that, he destroyed this skull with one blow of spiritual threads and everyone else was immediately free. The punk fell into a fountain of blood and the others immediately ran up to him to help him. Meanwhile, a strange demon appeared in front of them and said to his very nice to meet you. Greetings to everyone who is here now. He said that he is a message imbued with the elegance of battle. The skeleton raised his hand and declared that his master would launch a full-scale attack on this city tomorrow at dawn, and every soul outside its walls would be destroyed. The skeleton also said that the master asked to convey that if the demon queen arrives in the lost paradise at the specified time before the attack, then it will be postponed. And this is not the worst option for humanity. Ji Yuchuan looked at the queen and asked if she was being hunted by another old friend, to which the queen replied that she was not sure. But she felt a strange, familiar aura from these attacks and traps. And if she was not mistaken, then their Heavenly Wrath squad would not be able to resist this demon. Ji Yuchuan thought that the fact that the queen is serious and careful is rare, so he should listen to his words. Meanwhile, the skeleton began to repeat his message, and the director asked to shut him up. The archer immediately shot at this alert and finished it off. Meanwhile, she activated her walkie-talkie and said that she was giving orders to the city. She announced that the alarm level is now first, and all units must immediately report any movements of demons or the alleged attacker, and if necessary, then allow the use of Heavenly Wrath weapons without exception. Lethal force is also allowed. The youngest of the squad immediately asked the captain if they were really going to war. The blonde added that they didn't even know what kind of demon they were dealing with, because it could all be just one person, so activating the Wrath of Heaven protocol might turn out to be too radical. The director immediately stated that the strongest espers and demonic contractors are part of their squad. However, even so, two of them could no longer resist and barely survived after these traps. And this is not to mention the fact that he took a ranked demon, so they all know very well how this creature can be dangerous in the wrong hands. The younger one immediately shouted that there was still another option. Ji Yuchuan looked back at him and asked him, did he want the queen to go to this meeting? The blonde said that such an outcome is not even worth considering. After all, this is exactly what the enemy wants. And this is definitely a trap, so the situation could worsen even more. Punk also said that he agrees with these words because Ji Yuchuan is one of them. The younger, meanwhile, continued to say that the attack on the city was clearly an attempt to force them to surrender the queen. Ji Yuchuan and the queen whispered something to each other, after which Ji Yuchuan looked up at his squad and ordered everyone to stop discussing because he and Chelsea had just decided to go to the meeting place. The director immediately said that he should not be reckless and needs to think through everything down to the smallest detail, to which Ji Yuchuan replied that he was calm, and if this is what the queen and he must face, then he does not want to drag everyone else into this. The punk immediately started shouting that he was not going to let our hero go alone. However, Ji Yuchuan seemed to evaporate, and immediately the president of Heaven's Wrath dialed the director and asked where Ji Yuchuan was now, to which he replied that he had just left. The director said that this is not possible now, to which the president replied that he is the one they were looking for all this time. After that, the president went to his office. The president said that others, of course, may not know the secret information, but how could she let this guy go alone? The director said that it was her fault. However, now she thinks that this time what is more important is that they now have violators. The president raised his hand and said that he had already been informed about this. Pressing something on his watch, he said that the Heavenly Wrath base was under strong attack for the first time. So it is natural to be wary, but the Heavenly Wrath weapon should be used with caution because its destructive power is simply colossal. And since the Red Rain disaster happened, technological progress has stopped. Therefore, they can't produce more of these weapons and they should only be used as a last resort, so he called her here on a matter that was even more important. He showed her something and explained that these were the latest research results from the doctor. Showing the research, he said that this is a comparison of Ji Yuchuan's DNA with the DNA of the first predators, and according to these results, he is genetically closer to a predator than to a human. The director immediately stated that the first predators appeared more than 2 decades ago, and Ji Yuchuan was just a baby back then. So perhaps it was just some kind of mistake. The president said that they can doubt this doctor as much as they want. However, the research is undeniable, so he hopes that Ji Yuchuan can bring hope to this world. The director immediately stopped and asked what would happen if the intruder was actually looking for Ji and not the queen. The president looked out the window and said that this was impossible because these studies were kept under the strictest security. But they always had suspicions about the origin of his contract with the demon. After that, he gave something to the director and said that he knew it. Take it and use it if the queen becomes a threat to this guy. The girl took this object in her hands and said that she knew that it was a space-time demonic hammer. Having examined it, she asked, "Has it already been tested?" The president said that it was modified by the scientific department and is now infused with the abilities of many high-level espers, and with its help, you can break the demonic contract. The director looked at this and said that with this item, even if Ji Yuchuan had not yet fully mastered his contract, they would not have to fear that the queen would lose control like in that city. The president began to stand up and say that unfortunately this item can only be used once. The director bowed her head and said that she understood everything and she would handle it very carefully. He put his hands on her shoulders and said that he trusts her. But first she must take care of her own safety because her mother's dying wish is indeed very important, because she also his daughter. Dawn was coming, and Ji Yuchuan and his demon arrived in the wasteland at the Forbidden Zone number 31, where there was a huge castle and a rose garden. Ji Yuchuan completely enveloped this place with his spiritual threads, and the queen asked in surprise, "Is this really his brilliant plan, which is to exhaust all his mental energy so that she can meet one-on-one with this creature?" To which Ji Yuchuan replied that this is better than Hat to go into his trap, so they must wait until he comes out, because this way their chances of victory will be higher. The queen asked your master, "How can he be so sure that this demon will do what?" Ji Yuchuan replied that this guy challenged them, and as long as they stay here, he will definitely come out before dawn to destroy the city, and in the end, he himself arrogantly stated this. The queen looked at her master with the thought that his mental energy was simply amazing, and one day he might even surpass her. But for some reason, she had the feeling that she was missing out on something important, and that something was clearly wrong here. Ji Yuchuan noticed that the queen was worried about something and asked her to relax because he would not do anything thoughtless, and he still needed to help her regain her memories and strength. However, immediately after these words, he fell to his knees, writhing in pain. The queen immediately asked what happened to her master, and he shouted for her to be careful with this environment because his mental energy was now under attack. A zombie suddenly appeared behind the queen and she immediately finished him off with a blow of chains. However, he survived. The queen, looking at this, did not understand what was happening because usually these insects should have evaporated from her attacks, and perhaps she had weakened. However, after a couple of seconds, she noticed that this was clearly not the reason, and she began to be afraid. Meanwhile, the rest of the zombies began to appear behind her. The mermaid sat with the muzzle and asked if it was really okay to just kill them, because her mom always said not to kill because killing would lead to her being beaten and scolded. To which the demon replied that everything was fine and she shouldn't give in to people and suppress her nature. After all, people also have the nature of murder. He also said that she was just a little unusual person, so she should relax. The girl immediately rejoiced and said that she would be a good person to thank her savior. Mordak thought about it and said that she was already doing a good job. After all, she has an incredible killer nature and powerful abilities, and she can help him defeat the creature called Chelsea. After that, he laughed madly and said that this was just a perfect plan.